9 to noon, it's a football Friday. Let's get it started. I'm Billy Schmidt, Armin Sarian by our side here in the iHeart Megaplex studios, and John Kuhn with all of you on the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. I'm going to be honest with you, John, I thought I was going to faint in the middle of there, and I just kept going. So I was like, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it going. Like we're calling for a 3rd and 1 plunge. Like Mike McCarthy called quite a few times last night. Hey, man, you had to love the fullback usage by Coach Mike last night. We'll talk a lot of Packers-Vikings. It's border battle week. We're going to talk Badgers heading out to USC, but 20-15 and that 20-15 was the score last night. For many people, that was very impressive. I know you had to be impressed with the fullback usage there for the Dallas Cowboys, amongst many other things for Coach Mike's gritty victory there last night on Thursday Night Football, John.
Impressed is a strong word right now.
He went in and said, boys,
impressed is a strong
on a job done.
Job done. On one hand, I agree with Dak, a win's a win. On the other hand, I agree with Micah Parsons. Can we just, look good one time?
One time would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, they handled the Cleveland Browns week 1, but everybody has been handling the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland got a victory, but they're not a great team. And the Cowboys won that first game handily. But ever since then, they've kind of looked a mess. They looked a mess against the Saints. They looked a mess against the Ravens. And they look a mess against last night, the New York Giants, even with the 5-point victory. That's not a good performance. Now, I do agree with Dak, a win's a win. Because, quite frankly, it's hard to win in the NFL, and a win is a win. So to win ugly while you're still trying to figure out who you are, that's important. But I got a feeling this is the same old Dallas Cowboys team we've been watching for years. Same old team. Can't really stop the run. They're not really physical up front. Here's a teaser, Billy. Watching around the NFL this year, the teams that are really dominant, the teams that look really impressive, usually you'd like to say they have a Hall of Fame quarterback, and yet those Hall of Fame quarterback teams are still, but the teams that look really impressive are the ones with the lines. Right now in the NFL, the offensive and defensive lines rule all. And it's been that way, and it's going to continue to be that way. And teams that can play good on the offensive and defensive lines, like the Steelers' offensive line, not great, but it's good enough. Their defensive line, phenomenal. Right now in Minnesota, their offensive line, good,
playing
not
well.
Great yet, but they're good. But their defensive line, phenomenal, right? But it's a combination of the offensive and defensive lines that I'm seeing at Packers right now. Offensive line playing really good, really good. I'm hesitant to say great, but really good. And defensive line, I think, is playing really good as well. I
matching
really do.
up.
That first game, tough game for both sides against the Eagles. Finished it, I would say, with a blow for blow, 113 to 112 split decision by the refs there at the end, because, I thought Philadelphia's offensive and defensive lines pushed us around a little bit more than what we pushed them around. But our lines have been playing great this year. When you look at the Cowboys, their biggest struggles right now are their offensive and defensive lines. And now DeMarcus Lawrence goes down, Micah Parsons go down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where they're struggling this year, and I don't see that improving. And no matter how much time you put in on that, I don't. After seeing 4 games of a team, I feel pretty certain their offensive and defensive lines are going to struggle this year. They're going to struggle, and if that struggles, that team's going to struggle, and they might win 10 games or 12 games because that's what Mike does with Dak. But they're not going to be. They're not going to be a powerhouse that we really have to worry about.
They seem to have trouble running the ball consistently with any, and that's
they had a lot of trouble. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Rico Dowdle's the one. I don't know if it's his fault or not. I mean, Ezekiel is obviously shelled what he was. They keep trying to run CD.
Hunter
on these things.
Go crazy. What are we talking about?
Hunter's playing well, but that you can only do. I mean, I just think as a running game, they just don't seem explosive, even offensively in general, as I kind of expected them to be or was used to them being from last year. They don't seem as explosive on offense.
You understand why that is, right? Because they have to focus on CD.
Well, yeah.
If they don't get,
he is the explosive
don't focus
part.
On CD. CD throws temper tantrums on the sidelines like he did last year. Or Dak, has a conversation with CD on the sideline and then walks out and throws an interception looking in his direction for a pick six, just like he did against the Packers in the playoff game last year. I mean, too much of this is directed around a couple stars on this Cowboys team when really when really the important part is the offensive and defensive lines, and they have not strong enough.
And John, they're also remade, right? Like, I mean, you look at some of those names up there. BB at center, that's a whole lot different than Tyler Biadasz, who I don't think is a coincidence that he goes to Washington this year on a pretty decent contract. Pair him up with Jaden Daniels. And their offensive line has played well in the games that they've had. They went and added a couple of veterans. And conversely, Dallas added it with a couple of rookies. Like Guyton from Oklahoma playing on the outside. I thought he played all right. But BB up the middle for as long as Lawrence is in, that's a tall task for anybody in the league. And we're just like so used to the names that we remember on that Cowboys offensive line, John, of like the Zach Martins who was in and out last night with injury. Travis Frederick obviously hasn't been in for years. Tyron Smith now in New York. That's totally different. Yeah. And that one thing that you could always count on is no longer just the strength and the backbone of that team. It is an interesting position for them to be in that NFC.
Offensive lines and defensive line, they can get better throughout the course of the season. I thought the Packers offensive line got phenomenally better throughout the course of last season. Some of that was out of straight necessity and health, right? You know, Elton Jenkins goes down game 2. David Bakhtiari doesn't play again after game 1. And your whole left side of your line is restructured as you're trying to move along throughout the course of the beginning parts of the season. And they did. They came back when Elton Jenkins came back. Took about 2 or 3 games for him to get back to Elton Jenkins form. So there was about 5 weeks there of being down at the left guard spot. The left tackle spot had a rookie in it starting game 2. So it took him about half the season to get his feet underneath him. Zach Tom was starting on the other side. Took him some time to get his feet underneath him, even though his acceleration was a lot faster. He got really good, really fast. So you can get better on the lines. You know, the Cowboys are going to have to, because they're just not a great team. They really aren't. They should have gone in there last night. Now, this was a road game on 3 days.
On Thursday.
We know the Cowboys have never somehow I've never done it. That was their first time ever doing it. Every other team in the NFL has done it at least 6 times. That's tough. Going on the road, 3 days rest. I get that. They won. They got to check the box that job is finished. But I don't know. To me, that was playing with your food.
Well, Mike McCarthy's teams, I think, have had the ability to get better as the season goes on. So I'm sure that's what Cowboys fans are hoping for. They didn't go 1-3. You know, it was not a beauty contest last night for them, obviously, but they did get the win. And like you said, John, yes, I would have concerns about them going forward in terms of being a championship contender, but they've got to figure some things out, no doubt about it.
By the way, I got a text from Zabe. I got a text from Zabe last night.
Oh, good. No, it wasn't just now.
Throw the whole bleeping league in the trash. I really wish I would have gotten on it. What was he? Was he talking about the penalties? Was he talking about the missed kick at the end? Did he have Cowboys minus 5.5? What the hell was going on there? What is the? And it was right at the end of the game too.
Probably
just throw the whole bleeping league in the trash is what he said. Was it the fact that Malik Neighbors went out because he fell down on his head? What was it?
I'm thinking it had something to do with the miss on the cover. I got to think that it had to do with Brandon Aubrey being the only kicker to miss last night. And for former Packer Greg Joseph to be on the field, 5 for 5. They're kicking for the New York Football Giants, if anybody noticed that one, by the way.
Yeah, no, I did.
Saving us on the cover.
And look, that's why every point matters. If you had it 4.5, I mean, I don't want to just. Al Michaels is all excited.
Al was very excited for that to come down to it.
What was Al talking about Flag Day for? I mean, Al was on my list
because
he does not like.
He was in his bag of all over the place.
He was complaining about the refs all night. He goes, "Now what?
Now what?"
That was great. I
June 14th. It's Flag Day. I mean, he was all over the place. And
that was great.
Wrong answers only. 414-799-1973. Why was Zabe saying we should throw the whole bleeping league in the trash last night? Wrong answers only.
Wrong answers only, yeah.
And we're going to set up a poll for these wrong answers.
I do find it consistently hilarious that he likes to complain about the way things are called when openly admitting he doesn't really believe things should be called at all by the rule book at all. So I'm like, if you don't want things to be called with a certain objective standard.
Wait, are you talking about our Zabe here?
Steve Zabin always complains.
Steve Zabin of Zabin Butch in the Morning.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was okay to get those confused. I mean, because Al does not like that many flags.
Yeah, no. And
Zabe doesn't like Al Michaels.
I don't want a game over officiate either. And everyone was complaining last night that it was stopping the momentum of the game. It was making it more boring. I don't think it makes it more boring. It does stop the momentum of the game, but it reminds me of when college basketball started to really enforce clutch and hold and called a lot more fouls one year. I can't remember the exact season it was. And it was going to slow it down for a while, but hopefully make the game better. I don't know if that's the case here. You know, the game is more officiated, and you saw another unsportsmanlike last night on the celebration.
Throwing the ball at the DB.
Throwing the ball at the DB. It seems,
that's going to get you one every time.
So I don't know what to say.
That's never not been a taunting penalty.
As a player, don't you have to adjust to the game, John? And you talk about learning how to, you talk about how Rasheed Walker always has to learn how to block without holding and learn when to release. And those are things you have to learn and adjust to. We're still obviously watching the NFL. I don't think there's any question about it.
So wrong answers only. What was Zabe talking about? Throw the whole league into the trash. I gotta think it had something to do with carting off Micah Parsons after making him walk off the field, right? Or walk off the field. Now let's cart you to the locker room. Probably could have done that when the entire team were all huddled around you. That's fun. I'm going to keep trying to figure that one out.
Throw this whole league in the bleeping trash. What was Zabe talking about? Here's my wrong answer. He thought they were using the wrong 4K camera.
That's it right there. Yes.
They didn't have the aperture set correctly. It was too dark. It was dimly lit. Yeah, that's what it was.
Brian and Madison, Zabe wanted to throw the whole league in the trash because he's a primary investor in the UFL.
I like that.
That's a great call.
Not a significant minority investor in the UFL like you potentially could be if you're buying into the Milwaukee Bucks.
All right, Aaron in Milwaukee has got one. Throw the entire league in the trash because Taylor Swift announced another world tour and stadiums will be needed.
Could you imagine?
Well, that's right.
I mean, it's true.
She just keeps adding shows, Armin. She just keeps adding shows.
People keep buying tickets. So I wonder why that happens.
Tyler
because
from
they like her.
Wrong answers only. Zaben's pissed because he can't return his bet on the Cowboys to cover.
That's it.
Thank you for that one. 2 rim shots.
That'll work. That is worth 2 rim shots. 414-799-1973.
Oh, Brad in the 414. Zabe wants to throw the whole damn league in the trash because there wasn't more instant replay last night. What do you guys think about that? How about that, though? The instant replay official that's calling down. Have you guys noticed that? We have had
a lot more now, yeah.
Far fewer replays. Zabe's got to be, I mean, you talk about, I mean, that was a good ironic thing from Brad there, but Zabe's got to be loving this because replay is so far less than what it used to be because now they're just simply calling down, hey, that was actually a drop.
Yeah.
That was actually a drop there. We don't have to bother with bringing the ref over, throwing the flag, having him go through the spiel. You can save the challenges for the coaches and nobody's, worse to wear.
As a post gamer, big fan of replay assist for the speed of game. Will say though, once it goes against me on the investment side, like, come on now, can we at least get a couple of looks at this? One guy sitting up top and the seventh level is the one changing it. It does feel like they've had this opportunity for far too long and have not utilized the technology enough like they did in college.
But if we bash them, we got to give credit.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Positive
reinforcement is important.
There you go, Armin.
All right. Thank you.
I like you bringing a little positivity today. Armin's positive on a football Friday.
Come on now. Positive on a Friday.
It's how you coach kids, right? It's sandwich compliments, right? Positive and negative, a positive, right?
Our offensive line likes sandwiches.
Sandwich suggestion. I mean, let's do a little positive as well. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, he complains about too much replay. The replay has become a little more expedited in this case. We still want to get it right, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So that helps that. And at least that's one positive on the whole deal.
There's a lot of positives. There's a lot of good stuff to go around, and there's a lot of good stuff to be talking about on a football Friday. Thursday Night Football 20-15 was good enough. It was good enough to get the palate cleansed and now dive fully into the buffet that is going to be the main course here.
I've realized it too, Billy. I've realized it 100%. Thursday Night Football, everybody's like, Thursday night, these games suck. It's not meant to be like this souffled duck, right?
Thank you.
It's meant to just say, because goodness gracious, we get the Thursday so quick now because Monday Night Football is what it is. And we get the Thursday like that, like a blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden it's football here. And then we're like, oh gosh, Thursday Night Football.
What am I going to do? TV dinners. Come on. We don't have time to get the smoker out.
I was so excited for last night's game because, it's Thursday, and who doesn't love a Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
So it's Thursday. I'm so excited for the game. We got a can't miss on the line. We're watching this thing. The game's kind of clunky. It's kind of goofy, whatever. The Cowboys really don't look good. The Giants, you're wondering, are going to pull off a miracle.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, man, that was kind of kind of a crummy game. Oh, well, because tomorrow's Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday's college football with the game of the year, and then Sunday
Right.
is going to be glorious. So it's not meant to be Thursday's not meant to be perfect.
Right. It's not.
Thursday's just meant to usher out two teams that are going to make us say, well, I got to turn it on because I got to find out what my fantasy team does, what Coons Can't Miss does, and what these other guys are doing around the league, or potentially my team does on this Thursday night.
And it's not even an appetizer. It's the bread that comes before the appetizer.
It's the bread basket that's sitting at the table with those like little breadsticks in the baggie that you're cracking out.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be great.
Does it have
tide you over?
Is it just butter or is it olive tapenade?
Well, if you got
probably just butter.
Is there a little marmalade there too?
Depends where you're going.
I'll tell you this: you're definitely not getting the nice Texas Roadhouse cinnamon butter. Like you're gonna need a good Friday, Thursday night.
Actually, these are the peanuts that they give you before the bread at Texas Roadhouse. Actually, those peanuts.
Can you take it another step further, Arvin? You've
Sure.
taken it 4 steps further.
Sure.
What's before the peanuts?
Well, this is when you're in the waiting room at Denny's, back in the day, and you had the
this
25-cent candy thing.
Is this the Tic Tac on the way?
Yeah.
In the car?
waiting for you.
Yeah, this is the candy machine in the lobby of the Denny's that you used to go to when you were a kid.
25 cents, get a couple of Mike and Ike's. Aaron and Fondy, 1 day late. He said, I'll take 10 for what does Billy know? Run the table. Get in that tomorrow, next week, Thursday. A day late, $1 short. But Aaron and Fondy, when I run the table next week, you're gonna be the first guest for 10 in there. We appreciate it.
You already calling it, Billy? Because I'll tell you.
Calling it.
Then I'll tell you.
But Deviation Don says, Zabe said, throw the whole damn league in the trash because he wasn't talking about the NFL. He was talking about the WNBA. Damn, Don.
Jeez, man.
Don, come on. It's playoff time, Don.
Don is rough. It's
Don,
a Friday.
it's playoff time.
Oh, man. Why? Listen.
Aces Liberty last night.
That's going to be a great series, to be honest. Those are the two best teams in the league, in my opinion. Two best teams.
I'm glad somebody's got opinions on it.
Is your opinion based off of a lot of watching the games?
A lot of hardcore market research.
Based on my opinion of watching this, looking at the standings and looking at what people say.
Based off of looking at the sports section.
Listen, if you look, Asia Wilson's the best player in the league, and Ines.
So you mean the teams with the two best records are the two best teams in the league? Is that what you're telling me?
That's
and you can throw the records out when they get together.
That's what people are saying.
Two best records, two best teams, but throw the records out.
I was gonna.
No one knows when these two get together.
I was gonna do more,
anything could happen.
I was gonna do more research on it, but I had spent that 10 minutes deleting voicemails off my phone.
Oh, we're glad you did. We're glad you did. We'll get into that. We also some NIL promises from the guys at Barstool. One to help the University of Michigan. One to potentially help the University of Wisconsin.
Well, now we're talking.
This could be huge.
When you told me that this morning, I said, I know who I'm going to send a PSA out to. I know exactly who I'm going at.
And it could be huge for the University of Wisconsin. We'll get into that. We'll get into the matchups we're most looking forward to seeing coming up this weekend around the NFL in Packers Vikings, as well as talk about some USC Trojans, Wisconsin Badgers before Matt LePay jumps on the bird to head out to USC. Matt will stop by here at 10 o'clock. Voice of the Badgers is with us. It's John Kuhn. It's Billy Schmidt. It's Armin Sarin. It's 9 to noon with all of you on the NicoletLaw.com talking text line off and rolling. Football Friday. Stay wide on the game.
Trust the process.
What?
Friday.
What? Okay, Armin's bumping it up here today on a Football Friday.
I had to fix I forgot I had to fix the front of that song now. You know, can't really talk about him anymore. Or
yeah,
can we?
That's fair. Yeah, that is fair. It's just fascinating to see the different pieces of music that we're going to be able to potentially not use here on 9 to noon, and it's going to be an exhaustive process to roll through that. It is 9 to noon. It's John Kuhn. It's Billy Schmidt. It's Armin Sarian, and we are streaming live on the iHeartRadio app, which is worldwide, by the way. Whether you're in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Packers fan. Yesterday we had somebody on the YouTube comments hitting us up from London.
Oh, that was awesome. I saw that.
Good
that
morning. Is that not a very good one?
Wow.
I had a better British accent earlier today. Thank you.
I was waiting for you to do it, Billy, and I got news for you. It wasn't all that great this morning either. You do a lot of things well, Billy. I don't think your fake British accent.
I appreciate the honesty.
Top of the morning to you. That's Irish.
That was more. That was definitely more Irish. No, John, I was reading a weather report, and I'll be honest with you, it just felt like it had to come out in a British accent, right? Like there's certain times when, just feel like as we're sitting here with a Cat 5 hurricane, as Helene is hitting landfall, a Cat 4 turned Cat 5. It just felt like it had to be more of a British accent, and Armin kind of gassed me up on it, and I felt a little bit better about it there for a quick moment.
What's your Siri? Like what is your
That's
Siri
a
voice?
Great question. It was a British person for a large
mine's
time.
Australian. Mine's been Australian, will always be Australian. I actually envision it's Nicole Kidman talking to me the whole time.
There you go.
Okay, right? I like that deal.
And Lindsay hates it.
Because it sounds like Nicole Kidman, or she just annoyed by the voice in general?
I think she's just annoyed by the voice.
You know, I mean,
turn around in the car park.
There's
the parking lot.
There's more legitimacy.
Turn around in the car park. Well, so if you have another phone, like maybe a phone like Armin,
sure,
can't you pick a boy band? I used to have a friend everywhere he drove.
Big Time Rush.
Like, coming up at the roundabout, turn right.
Oh, that's amazing.
It would be a boy band. It was
really
pick that's different voices.
Funny.
I'll be and my series Australian, and his would be boy band.
AI is going to allow you to do anything these days. So, I mean, I'm not surprised if they're able to in sync that thing. Tim Allen's, he went through a phase where he was changing up his Siri. Now, in his voice text, like that will instantly fire out. And my man was going through a couple of voices. He settled on the Irish for a quick minute. They were not reading the box score very well. So then it had to get flipped on out of there. The AI though, and Siri will get even more advanced than what I'm seeing on these commercials for the iPhone 16.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to get dangerous.
It already is crazy.
Like they would have been able to predict last night that field goal was going to go wide right because 80+% of the money was all on the Dallas Cowboys.
Unbelievable. However, they don't say, when they say stuff like that, they don't say that it's the money's on the Cowboys at what line. What if a lot of it was at 4.5? See, this is kind of what annoys me when people say, oh, it's got to be rigged. It's got to be rigged. I understand why it's fun. I understand why it makes you raise an eyebrow after last night. But there's a lot of people had it at 4.5 that would have won the bet then anyway.
Who had it at 4.5?
Not a whole lot.
I didn't.
It was at
4.5. I picked the game 7 hours before it went off.
Yes, John.
You mean to tell me it dropped a full point?
The line's been out for 5 days. I mean, yes, it got picked through in the last 2 days, but the line was out for like 48 hours. It was 4.5.
Isn't like 80% of the money, Billy, in the last 24 hours?
Generally, yeah. Generally, it goes through the last 24 hours, and that's what the numbers that they're circulating out for.
All right, well, get in early on the. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
Let's just say you're right. Let's just say a lot of people had 4.5. What are you implying here?
That 30% of the people that had Cowboys money still won it, right? Because they covered 4.5. So let's say 30, because they say
because they got it right away when it opened at 4.5. I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying it's not a complete explaining stat when you hear stuff like
that.
But
then when you're seeing that amount of action on one side and the number go in the opposite direction.
Okay. Yes.
Somebody knows something, and I want to be hanging out with somebody. I want to be with the guy that knows something, because you can tell that there was a little something hairy going on last night, and it turns out to be with a 51-yard field goal by the best kicker in football, shanking it right.
Turner's been, Turner's been missing kicks. Tucker's been missing kicks too. So
Justin Tucker might now stink from 50+. We're going to talk about that more in around the NFL when we get there in about an hour from right now. But
it makes you wonder.
My goodness.
As you look around, and we said coming into this season, man, kickers got more 50-yard kicks than ever before. Well, you just watched Aubrey miss one last night. Watch just already. It makes you not feel so bad about Narv Dog's 2 misses this year.
No.
Missing kicks is part of sports, and it will be part of sports. Just because kickers have gotten better and keep that percentage keeps creeping up, it's just they're still going to miss kicks. I mean, it's still part of it. We're expecting these guys to be perfect, and it ain't going to happen.
Oh, it's not going to happen?
No.
Even though Greg Joseph was perfect 5 for 5 last night?
Greg Joseph had a perfect night. Guys,
including a 52-yarder?
What's his career average? I'm just saying he's going to be missing. So Greg Joseph will miss kicks this year.
I'm just still a little salty that prediction ended up not being true. Even though it was like half right, he did beat Anders Carlson, just not good enough, John, to end up winning the job and being the Packers kicker. And who knows? Maybe he'd be better than 9 of 11 at this point. And who knows? Maybe he wouldn't be at this point than Narv Dog.
Yeah, none of us know. None of us have any idea. Mm-mm. I will say this about Narv Dog. I liked Anders. I did as a person. Mm-hmm. I liked him. And I really liked the fact that we had 2 kickers standing over 6'4". Like, I thought that was cool.
That's a good thing.
In a league where kickers are generally under 6 foot, we walked out there with 2 Amazonian kickers, right? To just look down on every other team's kickers.
You got to have some get off the bus guys. I like that they're kickers.
Yeah. And our kickers were get off the bus guys.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool. Plus, Orzik, that dude's arms are jacked. Like our specialist looked good. They looked good. But even though I liked Anders, I really dug Greg Joseph's vibe on the sideline. Like, he was kind of like, yeah, I'm here to make kicks and steal people's hearts. Like, it was a cool little vibe that he had. But then Narv Dog shows up and he wears that hat backwards. And when he
got some swag,
he's like one of those young kids on the golf course that just pipes at 350.
Yeah.
Every now and then he shanks one. But just pipes at 350. You're like, that little son of a gun.
What is he doing over here? Why?
He's killing it. I got to give him props. He's killing. And when he crushes the ball, I mean, it's like, it has a whole different sound than what Anders and what Greg Joseph did. And he's got this vibe about him that's like, okay, I kind of like this cocky little kid.
Yeah, where'd you get those highlighter pants, cool. Ricky Fowler? What are we doing here?
I kind of like this vibe. I'm kind of digging this. Now, rein it in. Make those 40-yarders, and we're going to be all good in the hood. When he gets there, I'm going to feel really great about Narv Dog.
Well, he was perfect last week.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit. Well, and we got the mulligan. We got to get the breakfast ball out of the way. We got to find a way to just get all the misses nullified by penalty. But we talked about it last night a little bit on the Football Feast, and shout out Appleton for showing out on Calumet Street. And Brian Butch.
How was it, by the way?
Oh, it was fantastic.
You guys sounded great last night, man. I was listening.
I do say, though, John, and it's a PSA, and I said it last night, it breaks my heart when I select a name right around 6:35, 6:40, in-house,
burning a rip.
They're having a black and mild. They went to the bathroom. They already left. Like, twice, 2 different people lost the opportunity to win Packers-Vikings tickets last night. I just, that breaks my heart. However,
what's hard about
Joe
this?
Williams, I believe was my man's name, or John Williams. He was fired up. So he's going to be excited to be there on Sunday.
No, but what's hard about this? You're putting in a name and a drawing for Packers tickets, and you know when it's going to be announced. Why aren't you sticking around for this announcement?
Armin, some people don't think they're going to win, Armin.
Yeah,
they don't think they're going to
exactly
win.
It.
Okay, then why are you putting your name in the drawing if you don't think you're going to win? Why are you even doing it?
Well, they're doing it just in case they happen to stay there. Like, I can understand it. If you don't ever put in, you have no chance of winning. And if put in and you're like, all right, I probably don't have a chance of winning, so I'm leaving.
Yep.
I understand that. I'd never do it, but I at least understand it. And if you get yourself caught up and you're having a hell of a time, and all of a sudden you're eating wings with KB, and you're getting sauce all over yourself. I mean, stay and have a great time.
I mean, I know JB had all of his boys there last night.
JB had a good crowd
Happy
there.
Happy birthday, JB.
Butchie had the squad there. Yeah, he had
nice people to JB rolling with.
Oh, there was a good 8 or 9 people over there.
Told me he rolls deep with a crew.
It was a good crew. It was a good birthday crew. We had the Miller girls were there as well.
Matt Schneidman showed up.
Matt Schneidman came. Now he was
battery pack and all, didn't even need to be plugged in.
It's interesting you say that. He did sit very, very close to not 1, not 2, but 3 power strips. So
surge protectors.
Yeah, I don't fully know. He was quite frustrated because when he showed up, the Yankee game was not on TV. Got it on TV. Then it was auto-tuned to the Army Temple game. Ooh, we had to change it up. We got it there. We were able to see Giancarlo Stanton's home run while Schneidman was there in the Yankees prevailing grand fashion last night. But man, it goes up. It's always fun. It just, I could see
that guy gets mad quick, doesn't he? He's got a short fuse.
Yeah, and I thought, John, it was only you and I, and most particularly me, who just pokes and prods him a little bit.
I've noticed on Brick and a Stick, it's everything.
Yeah, it's just about everything. It's just about everything. You can get him really fired up about a lot of different things.
Can you imagine the break room at whatever airlines, when he takes them and when they realize his flight's delayed and they're all out there sweating, someone's got to call Mr. Schneidman and tell him, I'm not doing it. Someone's got to call Mr.
Somebody
Schneidman.
send him the notification. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Oh,
I'm sorry, Mr. Schneidman. It's 25 minutes delayed and you're at a new gate.
No, he was okay, and he was all fired up because he let us know his travel plans, and he is going to be back here for Sunday. Big boom at noon for Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll get into a lot more of that game coming up as well. We'll get into a little bit of Wisconsin Badgers in about 20 minutes from right now when Matt LePay joins the conversation. But before we get to Matt LePay and the Wisconsin Badgers, we had a conversation yesterday about one young man named Matthew Sluka, who is the no longer quarterback of UNLV, saying, I got shorted $100,000. I'm not playing anymore. I'm taking my redshirt year. That has fired up a robust discussion amongst the college football fandom. And it also brought a couple of big time college football fans to say, you know what? I'll dig into my own pockets, and it might benefit the Wisconsin Badgers. We'll bring that to you on the other side before Matt LePay, the Hall of Fame voice of your Wisconsin Badgers, is here in 20 minutes. It's John Kuhn, Billy Schmidt, Armin Sarian. It's a football Friday going into border battle week 4 in the NFL. Packers and Vikings, your home for Packers football and Badgers football as they travel out to USC coming up tomorrow, 2:30 kickoff. The games are always right here on The Game. More next right here on 9 to noon. You better get in on the game at Underdog Fantasy. Hey, it's Billy Schmidt. It's the best way to invest from your couch legally in Wisconsin all football season long. Over 1 million fans last year got in the game making picks on Underdog. Their college football pick 'em, NFL pick 'em, super easy, even easier to get started. All you do is select higher or lower on your favorite football player stats this fall, like yards, receptions, rushing yards, touchdowns, score statistics. You can also move numbers as well. Say, I think he's going to get higher than 97 yards. That might be a score statistic, and multiply your odds. Give you a better chance of winning on Underdog. And my favorite part of the Underdog Fantasy app, continually updating your stats to let you know how close you are to winning. Just download the app today or go to UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up with promo code Billy, BILLY. Underdog will give you a highly discounted pick to use on your first pick 'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You heard me right. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Billy, new customer offer of a gimme first pick, and your deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. 9 to noon on the game inside the Iron Jock Studios. The best place to be broadcasting is right here, right now. Where else would you rather be right here? Football Friday, Packers and Vikings week. Badgers are going to welcome in the USC Trojans to the Big Ten with their second L in Big Ten play. Maybe, I don't know. Tomorrow I'll be talking about it all the game. I'm excited to get into it and get fired up for it with Matt LePay coming up in a couple of minutes. Iron Jock long sleeve t-shirts getting a deal right now through September 29th. That's this weekend. Go now to ironjock.com. When you buy 2 small logoed long sleeve t-shirts, you get a third for free. That's almost a $45 value when you buy 2. Use promo code FALLBOGO at checkout at ironjock.com to get that deal, ironjoc.com. All right, Badgers and Trojans, 2:30 kick tomorrow. Pregame with Mike Heller at 12:30. That's can't miss. What is also potentially can't miss is finding definitely the pick at 11:15, but also being able to hit, John, on transfers in college football. We talked about it yesterday with the Matthew Saluka situation at UNLV. Cash will be king. We've known this for quite some time, and in college sports, it absolutely will be. How are the Wisconsin Badgers going to compete? Well, Michigan Wolverines obviously competing very well. Dave Portnoy, president of Barstool, along with Wisconsin Badger alum Dan Katz, otherwise known as Barstool Big Cat, yesterday on their program on Barstool Sports, talking about how they could help their favorite college football programs. Yeah.
You don't I love that they're already arguing what feature that their guys
They got to find 2 things. And got to
yeah,
be up
you
to,
got
up to it.
It's got to be for something, Armin. It's not just pay. It's name, image, and likeness. You got to earn your keep. You're not. This isn't free money here.
That's my favorite thing because we do hear instantly. Listen, I got the money. I want my team to be good. Figure it out. Get us a good quarterback. But then also, John, we got to worry about the legalities here. We don't want anybody from the NCAA sniffing around. Listen, 2 things a week. That's enough. Because that's one of my favorite things in arguing about name, image, and likeness is where's this money going? These guys aren't doing any commercials. They're not doing this. Well, hey, we got 2 things they're going to do a week, maybe for about 15 minutes, then focus on football and earning more money for my favorite football team. Hey, we got a chance there if Wisconsin's getting $2 million from Dan.
It could be huge for the Badgers.
We need that.
I'm assuming he's not going to give as much as Dave was going to give.
Listen, first things first. $1 million or so. Big Cat. He's got to put his money where his mouth is. He's got to help them out here, right? I mean, we're talking about big-time alums want to see their big-time football program bring in big-time recruits. Well, they need to write big-time checks.
Thank you.
That's the way it needs to go down.
Let's do it.
When Ohio State says or somebody reports that it's got 20 mil that it's using, Mike Heller, I talked with him on Wednesday, Billy. He thinks Wisconsin's around maybe 7, about a third of what Ohio State's dealing with. I think it's true. And as long as we're okay and we understand we are balling on a budget, then, hey, we can try and ball on a budget. But like Nick Saban said, when you go shop in the portal, you got to understand why these players are in the portal in the first place. You got to understand. Teams don't just let great players walk.
Uh-huh. Well, And John, do you even think it's and I'm fascinated to see how this trend goes. We talked about it with NFL free agents, right? With Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. Those are two free agents that their teams desperately still wanted to sign. Rarely those guys are hitting the transfer portal, even more so in college football. There's a reason why they were frustrated at their current place. There's a reason why they're potentially looking. And it's not always just, I played 3 years at FCS Holy Cross, played really well, and now I want to go in my final year of eligibility, go play quarterback at a group of 5 school like Matthew Sluka at UNLV.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a player that's extremely talented that can't make it work with a team. They're not the right fit, and instead of powering through and pushing through this, he hits the portal, and teams got to understand that. Okay, so are we going to be the one to make the process and the program work for him or him work for us? So there's always something. There's a little red flag. There's an arrow of caution that comes with each one of these. There are good cases, like you said, Billy, of a guy that spent 3 years at a school, got his degree, is ready to get his graduate degree, but has another year of eligibility. So he wants to get paid while he's doing it because he performed, the previous 3 years. There are good cases like that are out there. There are some cases that are completely not on the player at all. His coach has left and he doesn't want this new coaching regime. He didn't sign up for that. He signed up to go somewhere else. And then you do have the instances like it's being reported at UNLV. You got a kid, he came here, thought he was going to make, a modest, $100,000 for the year to start his life after he graduates, because he's likely not going to play at the next level. Right. But he's not getting paid any of that. So he chooses, hey, I got a red shirt because my one chance to make a little bit of money for one season is gone. So I got a red shirt. I got to shut it down this year, and I'll be entering the transfer portal to play for North Illinois State next year. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and the crazy thing about the Sluka kid, and this story is only going to evolve, right? Like he actually might make a bunch more money. Like the way it looks, like the way he played, John. And I heard Ross Tucker say this yesterday, and Ross owns a recruiting company, so he sees a lot of it in the high school to college conversation. He said it, and I'm 100% with him. If this was my kid and I was the father of Matthew Sluka and this was the situation, and if it is true what is potentially being rumored that different teams are like, hey, make sure you use this red shirt because you could make $500,000 go and play in a Power 5 next year, right? There's money to be made here, and here potentially. Then if he's my kid, he'd probably be doing the same thing. Like that is life-changing money to start your adulthood. That is incredible to think that you could just easily pass up. I know it's goes against a lot of fundamentals of sports and football, and I don't take it lightly saying that, but that is life-changing money, John.
But I don't think it does now. Now I just think it's above the table and we can all see it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I think that the motivation for players has always been, where can I, especially in college, where can I set myself up best for my next stage of life?
Yeah.
Whether it is, oh, I'm going to play in the league, whether it is, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to play in the league, so where do I get the best degree that I can get paid for? Or, there's some in the middle where it's like, okay, who's going to slide me that McDonald's bag full of cash?
And Sluka, he's from Long Island, and that's what these people think about in Nassau County, investing for the next level.
A little extra cash thrown into the market. Come on now. Maybe see if he's got something to play with on Wall Street. All right, 414-799-1973. I imagine a lot of the conversation after that is going to be quite interesting on the Talking Text line. We'll get into it a little bit later on in the program. We're going to try to find a quick trip take of the day there. In 1 hour from right now, your chance, your final one to invest with You Better You Bet. We got the picks that you need to beat to eat with the guys. Coming up on the other side, Matt LePay. Hour 2 starts with the Hall of Fame voice of the Wisconsin Badgers. We'll talk about that storyline that's dominating college football, but most importantly, his first trip to the LA Coliseum as the Wisconsin Badgers welcome in the USC Trojans for their second Big Ten tilt, their first home one. And Matt LePay is going to have the call, and he joins us on the other side, 9 to noon on the Game.
Warriors are still in the Bay, but there's nothing Oakland about not just the A's leaving, it's the complete abandonment of Oakland sports fans by their teams. The Raiders were fickle, leaving, coming back, then leaving again. Warriors are still in the Bay, but there's nothing Oakland about their new bigs. And now this. Other cities have lost teams, and it's gutting. To lose 3 is without precedent. You think Vegas is going to support the A's? Come on. The passionate, emotional goodbyes from those who love the team are to be expected. But ask yourself this. Have you heard even a single dissenting voice outside of Oakland? Anyone say, yeah, this is a great idea. You got it all wrong. The Sean Fisher guy. Yeah, you got it wrong. He's great. I haven't. This right here, this is just the worst of what sports can be. Heart goes out to you, A's fans.
What a great throw by Russell Wilson. My God. Shepard's one sack bunt this year, and it's popped up and caught. Throw back to second, double play. Come on, guys. Can't happen. Cannot happen. Happening. What is happening? What a great throw by Russell Wilson. My God, and he's
Badgers are heading to California, take on the USC Trojans, longtime conference rival USC here in the Big Ten, as the Badgers try to welcome the Trojans with not their first, their second L in the first one at the LA Coliseum. And Big Ten play, Matt LePay joins 9 to noon right now before he hops on that team charter and heads out to one of the most historic venues in all of sports. Matt, I know this has got to be one that you've been waiting for since the announcement of USC joining the conference, but I'll get the dad jokes out of the way of USC finally being and serving as the longtime rival, but I'm interested to see how they're handling it, because many people in the overreaction business that we live in, Matt, saying USC can't handle this physicality. Did you see Michigan just run all over them? This is good stuff for the Big Ten. These West Coasters can't handle the heat in here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because we never overreact to anything, right? We'll see if they can handle the Badgers here. They're still trying to figure out who they are and what they can do really well on both sides of the ball. But I'm looking forward to going there. I've never, as you said, I've never been there. I'm enough of a sports history nerd. I love going into these old venues. Even like when I was with the Brewers, filling in with those guys 5 years ago, we went into Oakland for a series in the Coliseum. It's run down, it's dumpy. And it's been a tough week for the fans out there, obviously playing their last game yesterday. But I took it in because you think of the history, man. Bert Campaneris, Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, Kenny Stabler throwing it deep to Cliff Branch, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And with the Coliseum, it's 102 years old, 2 Olympic Games and all the great players who have gone through there. First home of the Dodgers. So, yeah, I want to give myself a few minutes to just be a geek before the game starts tomorrow afternoon.
Matt, I'm glad you said that, because I talked about the Coliseum, had a game there with New Orleans, and just walking down, the facade into the stadium was a cool feel. It was a cool vibe, built down into the ground, into the turf it is. And where do you stand on stadiums like Oakland's Coliseum, like LA Coliseum, stadiums that, have all this history but are kind of being outdated with the newer, fancier domes and models that they have? Are the teams doing it right? Are the leagues doing it right? Or should we just save these stadiums for special events?
Yeah, they're doing it right for business purposes, I guess, John. But I think we may have gone down this path a little bit last year. I'd love to see another Super Bowl at the Rose Bowl, but we're not, because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that SoFi has. So they're going to play it out there. I just, you think of the NFL, Lambeau, Soldier Field, what else? Like, who else has an old historic venue they call home? I don't think there is there?
Well, Wrigley, but they don't really play football. I mean,
no. I mean in the NFL.
Yeah, you're not in the NFL.
Yeah. In college, you still, Camp Randall is more than 100 years old. Ohio Stadium, where Beaver Stadium, where Penn State plays, you can get a little bit of that at college. But I just, and maybe John, people don't care. I'm just kind of showing my age here. I love the history of pro football. I love baseball history, sports history in general. But man, I couldn't help, even though I was there on a baseball trip, I just couldn't help but thinking of John Madden's Raiders, Phil Villapiano, Marv Hubbard, all those guys, all those great players and great teams that played there. And the same thing with the Coliseum. I'm going to, like I said, I'll give myself a little bit of time tomorrow.
It truly is amazing, because I did enjoy playing at old Minnesota Stadium there in the Metrodome better than their new stadium. I did enjoy playing at the Oakland Coliseum. I did enjoy those places that I got to play because of the history. But now that you mention it, Matt, it might be a more enjoyable environment with college. They might have more historical stadiums, more places to go play now that have tradition, that have feels. When you talk about the Swamp in Florida, or Death Valley, or you talk about Happy Valley, or the Horseshoe, or the Big House, or Camp Randall, I mean, they might have more venues that you need to put on your bucket list than professional teams.
Yeah, I think next year when the Badgers play in Tuscaloosa, I've never been there. We were there for a basketball game 20 years ago, walked by the stadium, but just being in that venue, I know they got the Notre Dame game at Lambeau. They played at Soldier Field 3 years ago. It's great that they're playing each other, but how it would have been really cool to have Notre Dame at Camp Randall and have the game in South Bend.
Totally.
But still, who doesn't want to be at Lambeau Field? But still, I do think that's the one thing that maybe the one thing that's left in college football, as much as things are changing. You get these old stadiums and the history that just oozes, from so many of these venues. And you're right about the SEC. And, I'm old enough to remember when the Coliseum was the home for both SC and UCLA.
Right.
And you think of the first Super Bowl and the Super Bowls that followed there. It's just, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be the first time a stadium's had 3 Olympic Games, I believe, the LA Coliseum.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? And you're going to be there.
I've got to get there by 20.
Man, I don't know if you heard that. Armin is our Olympic correspondent in 2028. He's already
I'm going to make it happen
on the gig.
Yeah.
See,
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
We're giving Red Hot 3.5 years to work on carving out the Olympics reporter position. So we'll see.
Armin, good luck with that. Good luck with that.
I'm taking a great. Thank you. I'm taking a great.
Yeah, he'll see you there in 3 weeks. Matt LeBay heading out to see the Badgers take on the USC Trojans. Matt, what's the week been like? Off for a week? I know you got to get a little bit of R&R, check out the cabin, make sure everything was good in the neighborhood. In the UW neighborhood, there's going to be a lot of conversation. I imagine some consternation. Braden Locke getting ready to make his check my stats here because I need it for the postgame show. 4th start, first one here in 2024 after last year. Did not look comfortable against Alabama when he first came in. I don't think that's an overstatement, but being able to now have 2 weeks, what's the confidence that they can build this offense a little bit more tailored to what Locke can do well?
I did, for what it's worth, Billy, just, watching him this week, he was throwing it around and looking pretty good doing it. It's practice. We'll see what it's like tomorrow against a USC defense that looks to be quite a bit better than what they've had the last couple of years. But the fact that he does have some experience, these coaches talked in training camp where they felt like they had 2 quarterbacks they could win with, and I'm hoping that's not just coach speak, because I think Locke did push Tyler Van Dyke in the spring and then in the fall. He doesn't have the arm strength, doesn't have the fastball that Van Dyke has, but they talk about him, and you hope every quarterback is really smart, but they rave, and ever since the guy joined the program when he transferred from Mississippi State, they just rave about how quickly he can grasp the system. And he can make the proper checks at the line, get into the right play. And that's not to say that Van Dyke couldn't. He could, but they talk about that with Braden Locke being a really big part of his skill set. So, and I think he throws a nice deep ball. Now we'll see if they're actually able to execute that in a game. We haven't really seen that yet. But the fact that he has some games under his belt, and he was thrown into I don't want to say an impossible spot, but pretty close to it in the Alabama game. And I even thought in that game, the scoreboard isn't going to show it, but there were a couple of stretches where it looked like he started to get into some rhythm, show some confidence. Now it's just a matter of him and everybody else on this team being able to do it for 4 quarters, because they have not been close to getting that done through the first 3 games.
Hey, Matt, let me ask you, a lot of times the bye comes and people say it's at a good time. Well, because of health, right? It's always advantageous to have a bye no matter when you get it, because you will get healthier with 2 weeks versus 1. However, some buys, coming off a loss, a bye can be, man, this is great. We need to lick our wounds. We need to recover. We need to flush this before we go into our next game. A week can go fast. And if you play back-to-back great teams, that first loss can linger into the second one. Or you can get the loss and you can just not flush it. It can never go away. And it feels like 2 weeks of misery. Which way has it felt for the Badgers this time?
Well, they'd like to think it's the former. But to your point, I think this program has gone through this for the last few years now. When something starts to go sideways, it takes the air out of the sideline. We saw that in the Alabama game where, it's 14-3 late in the first half. Wisconsin's driving, just misses what would have been a touchdown to make it 14-10. But you're thinking at worst, you get a field goal, it's 14-6. They miss it. The air comes out of the place. And 2 plays later, Alabama is down the field, and instead of 14-6 at worst in the moment, it was 21-3. So it was worse than the worst case scenario. And they've been battling that right now. And that's the big obstacle, John, that this group has to overcome. I think given the circumstances of the injury to the quarterback, it's given Braden Locke and everybody else some time to develop continuity with what they're doing with the first team. They still have issues they know they have to straighten out. But I think a big part of this team, beyond the raw talent, because Fickell said this at the beginning of the season to his team, which was put on social media, there are going to be games where the other guys just have more talent. but you have to be as close to mistake-free as you can, minimize penalties, protect the football, things that they didn't really do, especially protect the football against Alabama. But if something goes wrong, be able to right the ship. And that's been a real trouble spot for this program for the last few years.
Yeah, and Matt, that's a big bugaboo. Like when you're not able to bounce back from the adverse situation in game, it is difficult to steady the waters. That was the biggest complaint I thought on the post game, was being able to, the whole script that you had to try to follow for a Wisconsin upset, Wisconsin kind of did on their own. We needed Alabama to fumble it a couple of times. That's in the past. All right. I had a coach one time hit somebody over the head, say, ask me why I did that. Why'd you do that, coach? Doesn't matter. It's in the past. So we forget about that one. Now we've flushed it a week and a half away. This Badger defense trying to slow down a Trojan offense that I don't think is nearly as explosive as a Lincoln Riley offense normally is. But Miller Moss will give you one or two. There might not be a Will Johnson on this team, but Rico Holman's got to be licking his chops, hoping that Miller Moss throws him one of those that he tossed to the Michigan first-round pick last week for a pick six.
Yeah, that's another thing that this team is missing right now. There have been 2 turnovers. One was a gift, a muffed punt in the opener against Western Michigan. The other was an interception late in that first game. But they have not created turnovers. The 2 turnovers created, quote, air quote, created through the first couple of games. And yeah, I mean, Moss is good. You know, he's one of those kind of rare species now in college football. He waited. He's a redshirt junior. And, you know, he's been a USC Trojan the whole time, which, you know, I don't know how many instances we're going to have like this moving forward with the portal being what it is. But he's also coached by a guy who's had 3 Heisman Trophy winners under his watch, most recently Caleb Williams, as you guys know. But yeah, I think that was an All-American DB who had the pick 6 last week. But if the chance is there to go, we always talk about offense, you know, get some explosive plays. But man, if it's rocking the quarterback, getting pressure on him, getting a pick, just something to put some juice into this team, that would be huge tomorrow.
Matt, you mentioned the portal and the stuff that's going with UNLV and the quarterback Sluka. I got a question for you. I always said some regulation is needed, not so much on the NIL as much as it is on the portal in that situation. But here's one where my suggestion would be wrong. One transfer or one every 2 years or something like that. Here's a quarterback. He transfers in there, has some verbal agreements. There's a miscommunication with his agent, with the school, with himself. And now he's saying, well, I got 1 year left. I need to redshirt, go back into the portal. I mean, this could be a situation where the kid, by no fault of his own, was given bad advice, bad suggestion. I don't know how we get out of this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this guy is getting a lot of grief in certain circles, and other folks are putting it more on the system. I blame it. This is a self-inflicted problem. You know, the lack of action by the NCAA hierarchy for years and years has led to this. And yeah, in this case, you can have certain contracts, like from the collective or whoever you sign with to do certain things for certain businesses. I don't know how legally binding they are. Moving forward, what they're trying to do, I'll try to make this short because I'll just get confused the more I try to explain it, but they're trying to get a revenue sharing system in place.
You get confused, I can guarantee you.
We are screwed. We are completely screwed.
We're already falling asleep in the back of the class.
Oh my God. Yeah. They're trying to get a revenue share deal in college athletics for next year where the school directly pays the athlete. So, John, I would pay you whatever that number is. $200,000 goes from me to you. You could still, what they're trying to get through, and the courts are having some issues with this right now, you could also have the right to get your separate NIL agreement, say with Big Cat. But they're trying to get a clearinghouse, an independent clearinghouse that would approve is what Big Cat is, what he is paying you, is that really market value? Is he going to pay you $500,000 for one social media post a month? That raises a red flag with the clearinghouse. But the question is, like, how do you determine market value? Market value is what someone's going to pay you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's crazy, because I would absolutely agree. If you're doing one appearance and they want to give you $100,000 for it, that's their money. They have the right to do that.
Yeah, that's the cap exemption kind of the college version of it, because the University of Wisconsin would pay you X amount of money, but you could still get a third party and you work out whatever arrangement you and your representatives can.
And people want this so that there's equity in college sports, but let's be honest, it's not equitable in pro sports. I mean, people go on visits and they've realized, hey, I don't have to pay state tax down here. That's 7% of however many millions I get.
For sure.
I go down here, the weather's warm all year long. The weather's not, these facilities are great. I mean, the old Oakland Raiders facilities were dog crap. I mean, they were terrible. So it's not always equitable, even in professional sports. So to say that, needs to be the case in college with a clearinghouse, I don't know if you can make that happen.
Yeah, and I think too, we talk a lot about culture in sports, especially in the college game, and they've taken a lot of pride in that here, just like any number of universities have, and that's great. That's fine. There's culture within the season, then there's cash. I mean, let's just say, like in MLB, if Willie Adames goes somewhere else at the end of the season, as many people think will happen, is it because the culture sucks? No. They got great culture over there. It's because there's more cash somewhere. Hopefully it won't happen, but you better brace for it. And I think that's a hard thing for fans and maybe fans in general, but a lot of times, especially the college sports fan who, like every school is the best school in the world with the best stadium, the best uniforms, the best band. And this guy sucks. So bench him and get the next person in there. And it's just the emotions run crazy. But
they are.
College game, I mean, it could be a great campus. You could have the best time on your visit. But ultimately, in many cases, if not most, it's how much money can I make here?
Well,
it's more open than ever.
Yeah, and that means that you need to hold your boy Big Cat's feet to the fire because we played it before you came on, Matt. And him and Portnoy went on it yesterday, and he said, I'm going to give $3 million to make sure we get a good quarterback. He said, you know what? I'll do the same for Wisconsin. So you make sure if you're going to let him cuss in the middle of a celebration at the Kohl Center, my man's got to be putting his money where his mouth is, Matt. So if you need any backup, let us know, but we'll let you take the lead on that.
See, now people know there was a reason we brought him on stage on that championship celebration. There are ulterior motives that
rush the court with the kids and do all that other
yes.
Part of the family. Make him feel like
right.
a big reason for that.
Now you know now what you should have figured out 2 years ago. Ding, ding, ding.
If only we were smarter. If only we were quicker on that. Matt, we going to see you potentially up here next week for some Brewers playoff baseball. You going to be able to get up here for a game or two potentially next week?
I wish, but it's probably going to be more back here. So like when they advance to the World Series, maybe I'll jump on the bandwagon.
I was going to say, Heller's got some tickets for you once they get to the championship series or World Series that you can probably use or we'll find some laying around over here. All right, man. Safe travels. Don't let Heller take all your Chick-fil-A sandwiches for that 4-hour flight. All right.
We're going to make Tauscher buy, which are words that are never put together. Tauscher buys.
With his graduation
Probably
money?
Never executed. Never executed either. Never said, never executed. Never was a game plan and never came to fruition.
So true.
We'll talk next week, buddy.
Take care. Have a good one.
There he is, Hall of Fame voice of the Wisconsin Badgers, Matt LePay, hanging out with us before he heads off to
in all honesty, though, like you don't stay rich by spending your money.
Damn right.
I mean, some prop again, Armin. It's a prop giving Friday. You got to give props.
Well, that's what Eli thought too when he sent back those fish tacos. I'm sure. So.
Yeah, son of a gun. There's different levels to
I'm
this,
just,
Armin, and he could have done that.
Just another example.
Did he have to? No. Did he? No. Should he? Probably not, but he could have.
You can afford some fish tacos. Eli.
Oh, man, that is good. All right, we're going to whip it around the NFL on the other side, talk about the biggest games of the week, the ones that were catching our eye, as well as Packers and Vikings because it's border battle week. Get back to it. It's Kuhn, Billy, and Armin. It's 9 to noon. Stay wide on the game.
Yep. John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And yes, let's not worry about off-season moves or acquisitions because this season was a season to recognize here in Milwaukee. New manager, some important pieces that went elsewhere, and yet what an outstanding season out of the crew. Well, Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, too, wants to remind you that they finished first in the windows and door leagues. Pella manufactures all of their own products, and each one of those products gets tested thousands of times to ensure it stands the test of time, and it's their quality craftsmanship and innovative design that are built into every Pella product for timeless beauty and performance. And guess what? You pick that craftsmanship. You pick that design. Pella windows and doors are also the best in class, not from their endless styles, but from the features you cannot see. And now for something you almost cannot believe. How about this deal? $18 per window, $81 per patio door per month. Yeah, It's hard to believe. $18 per window, $81 per patio door per month. But hurry, that deal only lasts until September 30th. So make your way into the showroom and let Gina Della know that John Kuhn sent you. Certain restrictions apply. Visit PillowWI.com today.
9 to noon on the game. Go around the NFL in a couple of minutes from right now. But we want to pass along our condolences here on 9 to noon. I'm Billy Schmidt. John Goons right there. Armin Starian here as well. An absolute legend in Wisconsin sports passing away suddenly yesterday. The news coming down that Joe Wolf passing away at the age of 59. Now, Joe Wolf was Armin before. Now, I don't mean to offend anybody here, and I don't. I'm alongside Brian Butch, maybe the most prolific high school basketball, biggest recruit coming out of high school, both McDonald's All-Americans, the only two at that time.
Biggest recruit, I'd say most influential recruit.
Influential is a perfect word
best
for it, yes.
Prep player, I think it's fair to say, ever in the state. Butch said it this morning, so I'm not taking words out of it. I'm not just thinking.
Okay, good.
Butch himself said it. I think it's fair to say, definitely the best. I mean, Joe was, and he was a legend, and he was influential, no doubt about it. At the time he was being recruited, there weren't many great prep players coming out of the state. I mean,
especially out of Kohler, Wisconsin.
There were some here and there, but he was
the Kohler Bear.
Yeah, he was recruited as high as anyone's ever been.
Called?
I just made that up.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
great
name. You had a Kohler Bear and a Polar Bear, and they were the two. Man, that's crazy.
John, this dude's life committed to basketball. 37 years around it. 12 in the NBA as a player. 25 coaching, whether it was college, CBA, G League, where he most recently was an assistant with the Wisconsin Herd. He was in the NBA. He was an assistant with the Bucks actually when I was in high school as a ball boy, and he was the nicest human being you could find. I mean, 7 feet tall and just an absolute icon of Wisconsin sports. Lost way too soon yesterday.
Yeah, it was very sad news.
Way too soon. And it definitely hits home, and it makes you think about it very, very quickly after an amazing life lived by Joe Wolf.
What's crazy about this is when the news came out, I checked up on it because obviously I didn't know a whole lot about Joe Wolf. And I mean, I didn't get to this state until 2007. And by then, where was he at? He was already in the NBA as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know about his high school days. I didn't know about him going to North Carolina, which is pretty damn cool for a kid back in those days.
It was a big deal. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. Pretty amazing stuff right there. And then I didn't know about how long he played in the NBA, which was a pretty significant career there. So all of the accomplishments made by him, and like you said, a life in basketball, a life and a career in basketball. And then as you follow, you realize how many people he did actually impact in a powerful way. And sports can be that bridge to get people to interact. Sports can be that bridge to get people on radars. But it's the person that people will always remember more so than the actual sport. They will care about it longer. It has longer lasting power than the 30 points he scored in this basketball game versus, Kentucky or something like that, right? It will always last longer, the person. And from all accounts, from everything that I've seen, an incredible person left or lost too early. Yeah,
it was very sad. And the thing is, you can hear about how nice of a guy he is, but when you see the amount of people in the basketball community pouring out tributes of him, it's obviously a humbling thing. His life was dedicated to basketball. He loved basketball in the state. I know the old timers have always said, that was the toughest recruit Marquette ever lost. Majerus lost him. He pretty much moved to Kohler and lived in a motel to try and recruit him. It was a very big recruiting battle, and it changed the course of Marquette for a while. It was Majerus was distraught that he lost him, and Joe Wolf came back to Wisconsin to play in this against Marquette with North Carolina in '86. They won a close game. Things might have been different. Who knows? But Joe Wolf getting recruited by North Carolina was a huge deal. I wasn't around. Obviously, we weren't. But the old timers tell me about all the time how big of a deal that was. It was a very difficult decision for him to leave the state. For Wisconsin was recruiting him too, obviously. Yeah. And in the end, Dean Smith was here a lot to get him to come to North Carolina. Knew he was important. He went to North Carolina, wanted to play with Michael Jordan, played with him 1 year in '83, '84. That was a big deal as well. So
Joe told me Michael got to play with him 1 year.
That's true. Yeah, Michael got to play with him. Right.
He got to play with him 1 year while he was at North Carolina. So that works out very, very well. So rest in peace, Joe. And we're praying for the family, for the Wolf family here today. All right. Week 4 in the NFL. That's what we do best. We talk a lot of football. We've talked a lot of Packers Vikings. Going to be in a noon kickoff coming up on Sunday. CBS, by the way, just we know you're listening to it on 97.3 The Game and the Packers Radio Network, but just for you to sync up TV and radio broadcast, we'll be on CBS. It's rare that a NFC matchup goes on CBS, but that's where it'll be taking place. But the games elsewhere around the league and around the NFL, John, man, there are some really, really interesting ones, especially one down 90 miles south where a pair of 1 and 2 teams that a lot of people had trendy picks to go to the playoffs, whether wild card. Some thought
I might have picked both of them. I got to go back and look. I may have picked both.
I think both of us did potentially have both the Rams and Bears in, but both 1 and 2. And I think that is a fascinating game for both sides because the Bears need something positive to go their way on offense. And the Rams got a masterful comeback win to kind of save their year last year in front of a very heavily San Francisco crowd at their home stadium of SoFi.
Give me the Rams in this one, or at least we need the Rams in this one. Caleb Williams looks like they put him in USC mode last week. Throw the ball 50 times. Let's make you happy. Start building this rapport. And I believe this. I believe what the Chicago Bears said was, all right, we're done protecting you. We protected you for 2 weeks. It looked like doo-doo. We can't get victories that way. So we're going to flip the script and we're going to do it. And you know what? I don't blame them for trying that. Let's get you back in your model, thrown 50 times a game, and we'll decide if that's successful. But in the interim, we're going to have fun. You're going to have fun. And we're going to air this thing out. Defensively, we're going to try and play good defense. And you know what? When teams are trying to make that jump, make that first initial jump from we are constant disappointments year in and year out, you got to do some drastic things. And it was a drastic move, but I think it's a good vibes, drastic move for a team in that situation. So I don't blame the Bears for doing that, but we need the Rams to get this thing, another victory here, because we could very quickly be looking at an NFC. I mean, we got a tough game at home this week. We could very quickly be looking at an NFC where we're tied with the Bears. We got the Lions ahead of us. We got the Vikings 2.5 games ahead of us. I mean, we need some things to go right here early in the early parts of the season, just so that it's not as big a hole to dig out of as we go along.
It's pretty amazing. I think we all knew the NFC North would be tough, right? We all talked about it, but it's pretty amazing that, I really thought the Lions would be the obvious favorite here, and it's not. We got the Vikings going on, obviously. So this is a tough division, and it's probably going to be that way most of the way through.
In the Rams, I mean, some people were really trying to throw wild cards out for them in the NFC West. That's a wild situation too.
Well, the whole NFC West, the NFC West is as flipped upside down as the NFC North is right now. You can really look at the NFC West and say, man, I would not be surprised if any one of these teams make a run. And if any one of these teams make it, or if multiple or 3 teams make it. You could say the same thing about the NFC North right now, maybe with an exception to the Bears, right? Maybe. But I would not be surprised if what the Bears did last week, thrown it 52 times, they rein in some of the mistakes that they do. They go on a little bit of a run here too, because I do acknowledge how skilled their defense is. Their offensive line, again, there you go to the offensive line conversation. But the Rams, Billy, the Rams got a plethora of injuries. They are hurting bad. And it goes to show you the 49ers, who practice really hard during training camp, they have a boatload of injuries. The Rams, who barely practice at all and don't play anybody in preseason games, they have a boatload of injuries. Load management means nothing in the NFL when it comes to the regular season. It's just the way it is. It's going to be a tough one for the Rams, but we're going to kind of need them to get this thing going.
Yeah, and I mean, for the Rams, you mentioned it with the 49ers and Rams. They were the most talked about teams in the NFC West to win it. Now, this game's on Monday night, so we'll talk a lot more about that coming up on Monday when we're hopefully basking in the glow of Packers victory and needing the Seahawks to go to 4-0 to give the Packers the solo lead in the NFC North. That Seahawks-Lions game Monday night, the second part of the doubleheader, could be really, really good for the NFC North and that NFC West.
And thank God for the second part of this doubleheader. And Armin might not like the way it's staggered, but I'm loving that it's staggered by 45 minutes, because who's going to want to watch those two teams?
Well,
the Titans and Dolphins. The Titans that can't protect Will Levis, and the Dolphins with their booty cheeks hanging out, getting tackled.
Yeah, that's fair.
Last week. We don't want to see both of those two teams are cheeks right now. So I don't want to see either of them.
I'm just saying that some cheeks are better than no cheeks. I'd rather watch the game. So
that's fair.
Hey, that is a quote I have never heard, never expected Armin to say, but cheeks. Some cheeks
Make
are
it a
better than
meme.
no cheeks. How about
Right.
that?
Yeah,
How
make
about
it a
them
meme.
apples?
Well, I'm just saying.
Not a meme. Make it a shirt. Nooner
Make it a
Day
shirt.
6. Some cheeks are better than no
I'd like to
cheeks.
watch the game, and I don't have to.
I don't even want to know the cheeks that we're seeing
Yeah.
if those shirts are made
And
for
you know
Nooner
what?
Day 6.
I get it. 2 TV setups,
If
3
we
TV
made
setups.
Some cheeks
Oh,
are
here
better
we
than
go.
no cheeks for Nooner Day 6. Can you imagine the cheeks that will be making an appearance there?
I don't know if I want to even imagine.
I
John.
don't want
don't
that.
know that I want
Yeah.
to imagine the kind of
No,
cheeks
not
that
our-
that
not
we
our
are going to
listeners.
draw out there.
We don't need a bunch of moons coming out during the day at Nooner Day 6. Armin, we can't put Armin. I'm sorry, that was the best. That's the best
No.
tagline you've ever
Well,
had.
it really
and
is,
unfortunately,
yes.
we
But
can't put it on
have
a
it.
shirt.
We can't have it. And
We
listen,
can't.
reality is, I
Could
I
put
would
it on
like-
the trailer though. It could be a part of the tailgate situation that Red Hot's got set up for the Packers games over at the Bart Star Tailgate Plaza, at least for a couple more weeks before it gets real too cold.
That's another option. I don't know. I'm not going to suggest it to Boss Man.
I mean,
Tim
I
Shaw.
don't know. He's always got a backdoor plan, right? Wasn't that the?
Yeah, that's true. That is always the thing, right there.
I'm working on it.
Okay,
He's
all
always
right.
got cheeks. Yeah.
One team that is absolute cheeks, and one team that's trying to prove that they may not be, the 0-3 Bengals and the 1-2 Carolina Panthers. More on this game coming up, John, when we make our investments and we give our winners during You Better You Bet. But if the Bengals if anybody needs a win more than the Cincinnati Bengals here this weekend, I'd love to see the case.
There's not a man in this world, not a man. There's not a person walking this earth that needs. There is some degenerate gambler down $100,000. He doesn't need the victory as bad as Joe Burrow needs a victory this weekend against Andy Dalton and the Panthers in Carolina. And you think that place for the first time in probably 3 years isn't going to have some juice after the Red Rocket just did what he did last weekend? I mean, this isn't going to be easy for Joe Burrow, and he needs this because the walls are starting to close in on Joey B. He had that nice run a few years back, and since then, a couple injuries. Every loss is not his fault. Did you ever notice that? He doesn't get a lot of blame for the losses, gets a hell of a lot of the credit for the wins, and it's starting to close in on him now that the team is 0-3. Rolling into Carolina, this is, and I'm going to say it, it's a September must-win for Joe Burrow.
Must-win.
He needs this victory more than anybody walking near.
Except for Zach Taylor.
I don't know, man. It still might be Joey B. And I think if he loses, he's got to dye that blonde hair red. Like, I mean, if indeed Andy Dalton gets you, you just got to go ginger and see if it works out for you.
Maybe.
414-799-1973. We got a bunch of other games that we got to talk about. The Birds go down to the Bucks. Both teams looking for a bounce as Tampa Bay got baked last week by the Denver Broncos, and a matchup in the AFC that has everybody's eye on Sunday night. We go around the NFL before we make our picks for you to beat, to eat with the guys, and You Better You Bet. That's 20 minutes away. It's Coon, Billy, and Armin statewide on the game.
So devilish.
9 to noon, Football Friday, Border Battle 128. The 128th meeting between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers coming up at noon, 10 a.m. pregame when John Kuhn, along with Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron, set the scene. It's John. I don't mean to just be a shill for the Packers radio network, which I'm a big fan of being a part of on Packers OT. It's one of my favorite things when you guys do the first like 10, 15 minutes before the game to set the scene, especially at Lambeau, because
we call that an early look. That's
is that what it's called?
That's what that segment's called, an early look.
Armin's on one today. Have you noticed the freaky music he's playing? He's on one. He's got
that was a little scandalous right there.
He's
just a variation on a theme.
Friday vibe going on right now. I would not be surprised if you catch a Snapchat of Laura later today, Billy, because that's
yikes.
Go in freak mode.
Yeah, be careful. This is very early. Very dangerous right now.
No, but that is a great segment. An early look. I love that segment.
Yeah. Well, especially at Lambeau because Larry McCarron, there's people that love football, right? Jim Harbaugh talked about it. I like people that like football, right? Yeah. You can hear how excited Larry is for a Packers game, John, 2 hours before the game on the call, and then throwing it down to you to get the scene of the field at Lambeau. There's just something special about it, especially one where these two teams don't like each other. The fan base hate each other. And I ran through some of the numbers yesterday. The last like 15, 20 years, this rivalry is almost dead even. So that feeling a couple hours before the game, this is a very different battle than what these two organizations have seen than over the last number of years.
I don't think people can truly grasp unless you've done it. And I don't know how many have done it to this level of wanting to smash somebody's face in on the other side, like literally wanting to run them over. Like, and I will use EJ Henderson as an example, and Aaron Henderson, his brother, and Chad Greenway, right? I'll use Urlacher and Lance Briggs. Those were the guys I was primarily going up against. To want to just destroy them so bad, and then after the game, really be able to respect them and shake their hands and appreciate the opponent that they are. But that's what these games are. They are just like that. And believe me, the Packers know, even if the Vikings weren't 3-0, even if the Vikings were 0-3, the Packers would be knowing going into this game, this is going to be a tough knockdown, drag out, brawl, battle, Flores designing things, Van Ginkel wanting to knock my block off. Like, you're going to have these Harrison Smith over there, the boxer that he is, bloodied and bruised and ready to beat you up, right? You're going to know those things going into this game. No, throw out the records. You can.
This is throw them out.
You can throw the records out. Now, on the flip side, you can't, because that makes this a can't lose game. Very important game this early in the season because of how they have started this season and the development of what the NFC North looks like it is this year.
But it was different when you saw purple, right, John? It became more purple. I knew it. It's not just another game. You know, when you see these guys, there's a certain level of distaste, dislike, and hatred. I know fans feel it. And I know I feel it, so I'm glad no players feel it too.
But I'll say it like this: like you've respected these guys.
Well, sure, I get it.
That gave their all each and every time you played each other, and you did that with every game that you played. But division games are different because now you match up twice, and I can tell you sometimes you match up 2 times in 3 weeks or 2 times in a month. Luckily for the Packers, they don't play the Vikings again until the last game. But there were times, I mean, we played the Vikings a couple times, back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
Last game of the regular season, first game in the playoffs.
Yep, first game of the playoffs. Yep.
Do you know how tough that is?
Brutal.
And after playing them earlier in the season, then you do it again. So you get little nuances, and it's like when you fight with your brothers, right? Or your best friends. You kind of know who's got that good swing. You kind of know, hey, if he gets me on the ground, I'm done for, right? So you stay away from these positions. You have these, because you've battled against them so many times, insider tips or scouting reports that even the scouts can't give you because only you have faced them in that capacity.
Well, and a lot of times, John, you look more fondly on that opponent than other teams do as well. Like you mentioned Harrison Smith. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit around the National Football League for just how good he has been for so long. Greenway was another one. But when you watch him and you see him and they frustrate you for so long as a Packer or a Packers fan, like you see it, and Aaron talked about it so many times about Harrison. Like, he's one of the best in this game and has been for a long time. But when you see it and you go and prepare for it so many more times than everybody else, you add a little bit more to that conversation.
He's smooth as he is with the way he disguises coverages and pressures and rotations and even just defensive fronts. He can disguise so much, and he's so smooth with it. And you wouldn't anticipate that out of a guy who's seriously a bruiser. He's a hitting safety.
Yep.
He's a physical, hard-headed, knock him around safety, but he's smooth with it too, which really adds to his dynamic playmaking ability. Not a lot of guys are both. Not a lot of guys are iron-headed and yet clean, with how they approach the game. It's a really good combination to be, and it's what makes him honestly one of the best safeties in the league during his time.
Yeah, he has been for a long time, and he is one of the big reasons why Brian Flores is able to be so confusing, and why quarterbacks so far have been really confounded. Brock Purdy just said it's nuts. It's crazy. Like, it is absolute craziness what they're doing on that side of the football. Hopefully we can find some comfort in the chaos that the Minnesota Vikings defense is trying to provide.
And that is the one kind of that I have for this week as it pertains to the Packers. Jordan Love coming back. Jordan Love has only played one game this whole year.
Yeah.
Since January, since we lost at San Francisco, Jordan Love's only played one game in Brazil against Philadelphia. All the hoopla that was there. This Brian Flores defense now has several weeks to really perfect what it's doing, or at least get better and evolve what it has been doing. Jordan Love's going to see this. He's going to see live game action only for the second time, the first time in 3 weeks. That's the thing that gives me a little hesitation on this one.
And that defense that Brian Flores and the Vikings are bringing in, first in total quarterback pressures, first in sacks, allowing just 2 passing touchdowns with 5 picks on the year. They're the first team since 2001 Tampa to have 5+ sacks in each of their first 3 games. With that information at hand, we need your predictions, 414-799-1973, because we're going into You Better You Bet. Now, your score prediction for week 4, Packers and Vikings, if you are the closest, you get it right on the head, you are going to be the contestant on a wide open Wednesday for You Better You Bet. So these predictions over the next hour are pertinent. You got to get them in right now, 414-799-1973. Our predictions are coming up in about a half hour. But even better, the picks you need to beat to eat with the guys at Carnivore and You Better You Bet on the other side. We invest, so do you. Caller number 3 will be our contestant for You Better You Bet when we return with our number 3, our best of the day on 9 to noon, statewide on the game. Woo! 9 to noon, hour 3. It's Football Friday. Stand up. Come on. Armin Sarian is in some kind of mood. John, I don't know if him and Laura got some plans going on.
He's a freak. He's an absolute freak, and he's freaking out.
Well, I don't know.
Is this about to be date night for the first time since the baby or something? Or
we don't actually have any plans. I don't know what you're talking about. I just,
cleared the schedule. Golly,
it's party on a Friday,
But like I get party music. No, I mean we can hear LMFAO. I think this is like the last 5 songs have been straight twerking songs. There's a vibe here of the Cheeks conversation that Armin is all
lower
excited.
Hemisphere for Armin here today.
He's saying top or bottom. We are going bottom bar.
I haven't noticed that.
We know for Victory Chicken Monday what you're choosing.
Yeah, goodness.
I haven't noticed that.
Give him all the
thighs.
dark meat.
He wants all the thighs, man. Goodness gracious.
I don't know. I haven't. I just picked these bumps from a rotator.
That's where they come from. Yeah.
That's just
in a certain file that you have saved away. Very, very fun. Very, very good work here so far. 9 to noon, 2 hours in, 1 to play. We're getting your predictions for Packers and Vikings right now. Remember, score predictions for Packers and Vikings. If you get it on the head, you got a chance to be our contestant coming up on Wednesday, Wide Open Wednesday for You Better You Bet. This is how you are the text version and the text participant on a Wide Open Wednesday if you get this thing dialed in. So they're rolling through. We do have a contestant, though, for a Football Friday. Before we make the picks that you need to beat to eat with the guys at Carnivore, Brian in Eau Claire is the final up in the batter's box on You Better You Bet.
You better. You better. You better. You bet. You better. You better. You better. You bet.
And you better bet that you need to have everything dialed in before you call 414-799-1973 to try and participate in You Better You Bet with Carnivore, Milwaukee's premier steakhouse. For over 15 years, John, they got the finest steak cuts in Milwaukee, Australian, Japanese, anything international, domestic cuts of Wagyu steak as well. But that wine and spirits menu, that cellar that Omar's got his choice wines, that's something to experience for folks over at Carnivore.
Delicious. Yeah.
All of that, all the wine, all the cocktails,
gin
all the
gimlet.
appetizers, all the gin gimlets, all the steaks, the Wagyu.
Every single bit of
Seafood
it.
Tower, all of it.
There's not going to be one thing that hits your plate that's not going to be delicious. The classic steakhouse meets modern experiences at Carnivore, Milwaukee's premier steakhouse for over 15 years. So Brian in Eau Claire is trying to experience that. If he can beat the guys, then You Better You Bet, Brian, it's going to take 5 winners. I feel supremely confident that you're going to give out at least one, and it's going to start with your first pick. What do we got?
I'm laying some points here this weekend, fellas, but I feel good about it. First out of the gates here, Jaguars look pretty bad. I know the Texans haven't looked great, but I'm gonna pick the Texans to cover at home.
Texans need to get right, John. They're laying 6 points against Jacksonville. I've already said I'm done losing my money on the Jags. At some point this season, I probably will still lose more money on the Jags. This game I don't love, but a very, very interesting one with just a 6-point favor of the home team.
Yeah, what's crazy is the first 3 weeks we've had so many games where 5.5 has been the spread or higher, and we know what the trend is. The trend is those teams catching all those points, cover the spread or win outright.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to look at what the Jaguars have done this year and say, I feel good about 6 points against the Texans.
I agree.
Even though the Texans haven't looked great the last 2 weeks, I still can't take 6 points with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence.
Guys, this is one of these games I stay away from it. I hate this game because I can't take the Jaguars and I can't in good faith take the Texans, who have not looked good in 6 quarters and no one's talking about it. Houston, I think we have a problem, actually, to be honest with you.
I've been sitting on that bar for a while.
He wants to fade CJ Stroud.
Now, this might be a get right chicken soup game for them, and so be it if it is. But I don't feel confident in any of these teams right now. I mean, Brian could still win.
Do you think it's more of a get right chicken soup game, or do you think this is Jaguars saving their season?
I don't know well enough to make a good I don't know.
So you're just going to not pick it off.
He's just going to sit right on that.
I'm going to pick
I
it.
avoid this game.
Then I'll pick it for you. This is a Jaguars and Doug Peterson saves his season game.
Let's go. Come on, Jags.
All
Come
right.
on.
They
You guys know I still got my thing.
I don't feel comfortable either, Armin, but I'm coming out here and I'm going to pick the game. I'm going to pick the game. Jaguars
Well, I wouldn't.
don't win, but they keep it close. They lose by 2, and 6 points is enough.
Damn it, I'm in. Let's go, Jags. Come on. That's as quick as a duck. You guys know I want to like Jacksonville.
Put a
You guys
half,
know
dude.
I'm going to pull for the Jags.
Put a half a unit on that.
All right, Brian, second pick. Where are we going?
In the battle of enigma quarterbacks, I'm going to take Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons over Derek Carr and the Saints. The Saints are on fraud alert to me.
Ooh,
Those are-
fraud alert to Brian and Eau Claire.
Good point. They're enigmas for sure.
I love that. I love that word there. As the
All right,
Falcons
so who are
last
you
night
picking
at
in
one
this
point.
one, Armin?
Don't feel comfortable picking anybody. in this.
Okay, so I'll pick it for you. Okay, Kirk Cousins has kept the Falcons season alive, even though they ran into, that Kansas City Chief team that finds a way to win last week. Atlanta's on the up. The Saints could potentially be on the down. It all rests on Alvin Kamara's injury designation. Will he play? If he does play, is he even limited? Do they take snaps away from him, carries away from him? Because if they do, Kirk Cousins and this Atlanta Falcon team is going to win. The proper team is actually favored in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's a very, very interesting battle down there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I always mess that up with Mercedes-Benz Superdome, which it used to be. Now it's Caesar Superdome.
Caesars, yeah.
It might change 4 more times before we get down there for Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, it might be the
in
Raising
February.
Cane's Superdome.
You know-
never know.
We were talking about historic stadiums and how they're going by the wayside. That might be the one that's next. And not to go by the
What
wayside,
do you
but
mean next?
no, I'm saying that the Superdome is the historic stadium now, besides Lambeau, of course, is the historic stadium. I mean, when you think about it, what's an older, more iconic stadium than the Superdome?
Well, listen, Soldier Field is gone. We know that.
Right,
Eventually, that's
right.
going
Yep,
to be
that
gone.
one's
That's my
gone.
whole point. right?
Lambeau Field's always going to be
That
here, and
never
the
ch- yeah.
Superdome, I believe, is always going to be
That's
here.
my whole
Those
point.
two, yeah.
Yeah. So those two are the ones, I think.
Okay, so you're okay. We got you.
What he's saying is we're not losing the Superdome.
Exactly.
It's the iconic venue
I
in
s-
pro
well,
football.
and
I
here's
said
the
it
other-
clunky.
Got
and
it,
here's
okay.
and here's the last thing to it. As long as it keeps getting a Super Bowl every 5 years, it's going to stay. It's going to stay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because it is one of the most intoxicating environments to be in.
That-
I was
that
there for that
stadium-
Final Four. It was unbelievable.
That stadium, for anybody who has not been there, Packers make it to the Super Bowl this year, you have to go. First of all, New Orleans, don't be afraid. You got to know where you go, but
You're
just
gonna have
kind of
so
use
much
your
fun.
eyes. Kind of use your
no
eyes.
one's afraid.
Awesome city. The stadium is electric.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Mhm. There is, I will put it up against, there's not many more better big game venues than
John and
Caesar Superdome.
262. We know the game's in Atlanta. That is the Mercedes-Benz
Stadium. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is
Correct.
the one that they have the cheap hot dogs at, and they were giving out free hot dogs last week to celebrate the
and
owner.
chips and bags
And
of
chips and a soda to celebrate the owner that made the stadium as he put his name
Did you see
on the facade.
Did you see him getting his jacket and everything and
Oh,
pumping
yeah,
his
come on
fist?
now.
That
You
was
kidding me?
hilarious.
Come on, Arthur. That was a
That
moment he's been
was-
waiting for.
That was hilarious.
He thought of that exact moment when he wrote the check to buy the Atlanta Falcons. All right, Brian's waiting patiently to give us another
yeah, I
winner.
know. I'm sorry,
Brian, what's our next pick?
Jumping to Sunday night, fellas. The 1-2 Ravens, they're coming off that win last week at home against Josh Allen and the Bills. But give me the Bills. I think something's a little bit off with Baltimore this year. Buffalo looks good.
Plus two.
Give me the Bills and the 2.5.
Plus
He's
two.
in on the Josh
Okay.
Allen MVP season. Buffalo +2 now,
got
as
two
this
now,
one has
yep.
bounced around a little bit. It was at 2.5 earlier in the week. Very interesting one, John. Two teams that are always going to be picked to be atop the AFC, but Buffalo, fascinating story here so far because everybody's going to be juiced up after their huge win on Monday night at home.
Yeah, what a game. What a game we got coming here. Buffalo, Baltimore, MVP last year versus what I think is probably the front runner for MVP this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Josh Allen's time. I told you about that Monday. I think this is the year that Josh Allen takes it to the next level without Gabriel Davis, without Stephon Diggs. Why? Because now he can be free and now he can do him and do you and do what Josh Allen does best, which is don't worry about a wide receiver who needs to get the ball. Just give it to the wide receiver that's open and then run if nobody else is because you're bigger, faster, stronger than everybody else. I may have picked this game. I may have let too much out of the bag. So we'll move on.
I'm excited to be able to hear where that one goes. All right, our final pick here, Brian. Let's lock one in. What do we got?
Let's see here. They got one more or two more?
You got two more
Two more.
picks, actually. You got two more picks. Yep.
No, we were just taking so long. Sorry.
Yeah, that's our fault.
We're having fun.
Right.
Moving to Monday night, the Lions are 2-1, very respectable. They've been a little bit sluggish so far, though, I would say. I think they come out of it on Monday night and beat a surprising 3-0 Seattle team and cover the spread there.
All right, laying 3.5 with the Detroit Lions against Mike McDonald's 3-0 Seahawks, John, on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and I try to stay away from Monday night and Thursday night games for this specific reason. You will see the craziest junk happen on Monday night games because coordinators have had all kinds of time, too much time to be able to prepare for these teams, that sometimes they start preparing stuff that actually doesn't work. And sometimes maybe the other team starts preparing stuff that Monday night games to me are so damn unpredictable and they're so competitive that I really want to stay away from them. And then Thursday games, you get a lot of what you got last night. You got a lot of flag fest. You got a lot of ugliness. I love staying in that Sunday slate, but this is a fun game to pick because this is two teams that have good starts to the season that we expect are going to be good teams throughout this year. I'm excited to watch this game on Sunday, but I didn't pick this game.
Yeah, I can't wait for it on
Stay
Monday
away.
night. And I'll tell you this, it is on my my system play here, Armin.
I like that.
I'm going to fade Dan Campbell in the real estate situation until we figure out this house situation in Michigan.
Oh, you don't like that?
I'm fading Motor City Dan Campbell.
He's not getting his rest, is what you're concerned about.
Dude, nervous. All right.
Now-
They know, listen, man, they know my
You
house.
know, at one point in
They
time,
know
Dan
it?
Campbell was the best coach against the spread ever.
Wow. Then
And
they
now I'm just a little
started
nervous.
They started favoring him.
He's on Zillow, John, late nights. Got a lot of emails from his real estate agent trying
Which
to figure
is-
out where they're going to be moving to.
And I've been there. That's not a stress-free situation.
That's a tough thing to be in.
I've been on Zillow late in the night. Let me tell you. Now, the thing about this is,
Is that the only site you're on late night?
yes,
What is the thing about it?
I like the lines here, but I like to buy the half point. I'm going to buy the. I like to
You'll
buy
buy
the.
the
You
half
can't
point.
do that, and you bet.
No,
What is going on here? You won't pick a game. Then when you do pick a game, you buy a half point. That's completely against you bet rules.
Is this like
He's
KB?
worse than
Is
KB last night on the feast. KB just picked, I think, the Chiefs to win straight up.
Straight up.
Almost broke
Chiefs
Schneidman.
money line? Chiefs money line.
Schneidman
got
unplugged
heated.
every cord that was powering him up on the picks last
He
night in the
was
football
Armin,
games when
there's a
that
set
happened.
of rules here. I mean, you've only done you bet for 7 years in a row. You know it. It's against the spread, and there is no manipulation of the spread.
I was doing
The
my own
spread
thing.
is the spread you get when you get it.
You don't get to do your own thing.
Now, Schneidman was heated at KB.
He could
You
not.
can't. What
could
kind of
not
pick
handle
is
it
that?
last
You
night.
can't do a money line. What's that? Oh, I'm going to take a minus 1,000
And then
call
just sweet Hunter. He's a sweet boy. Just goes, I don't know what any of this stuff means. I just give you a win if I think it works. God, the guy is
All
awesome.
right, one more
All
pick
right,
from
final
Brian.
pick. Brian,
We'll
what's your
get through
lock?
it.
The 1-2 49ers are at home against a crummy Patriots team looking to get right after a couple of losses.
Mm-hmm.
Everything points to the 49ers, but not so fast, my friend.
Nah.
My stone cold lock of the century, of the month, of the week is the Patriots finding a way to cover.
Let's go.
Damn. It went from a lock of the century, a lock of the month, to a lock of the week. John, it's 10.5 points for Jacoby Brissett and the New England Patriots. Gerard Mayo's defense might have something there for Brock Purdy. They get a long week as they had the Thursday night game to travel out of San Francisco. I don't love it, but that's the lock there from Brian and Eau Claire.
All right, we're gonna thank Brian from Eau Claire.
Yeah,
We're
good
gonna
for
tell
you,
him
Brian.
to listen next
Congratulations.
Tuesday to find out if you make your way through. And I'm gonna say this about this game. I completely agree with everything that he says. The 49ers are 1-2. The 49ers are at home, and everything points to the 49ers running away with this thing against a crummy Patriots team. That's why I'm taking the 49ers to run away with this thing minus 10.5 points. I fully expect them to go out there and be better than the Jets were against the Patriots just 10 days ago when they rolled them by about 24 points. So I expect this to happen with the Patriots in this one, and I'm taking it. 49ers minus 10.5. Now, I told you, Bills, Baltimore, that game to me is a game you must circle. You must watch because both of those teams right now are smacking their opponents in the face, just smacking them. And the Bills and Ravens like to run the football. And Josh Allen could be one of our MVPs this year. He could be one of those MVPs that does it not. He he's going to have statistics like Lamar Jackson did last year. He's going to rush for 1,000 yards this year. He's going to have a bunch of rushing touchdowns, but then he's also going to throw for about 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. Josh Allen is my pick to be MVP this year. I'm saying that early, and I'm taking the Bills +2 at Baltimore. Going to be tough, but if you're giving out points to the Bills, I'm taking them every single week this year. Anytime the Bills get points, Armin, write it down now. Kuhn's taking them. And in fact, I'm going to make him my lock this week. Woo! Now, Aaron Rodgers, here's a fun fact, guys. Aaron Rodgers, anytime he's had 10 days of rest or more, is undefeated in his career. Add on to the fact that the Broncos are flying from Midwest, or what's that time? Mountain West time.
Mountain time.
Mountain time, flying all the way from Mountain time to the East Coast to play a noon boom against the New York Jets at home. Game number 2 of 4 straight home games. Aaron Rodgers at home after 10 days rest is undefeated. I think that continues. Jets -7.5. Don't like the hook there, Armin. Wish I could buy a point away from that, but I can't because I know the rules.
Right, you can't do it.
Yeah, he doesn't fudge them like you do.
7.5.
How about this one? How about the Steelers and Justin Fields just being undefeated this year, and Anthony Richardson with the Colts just is not great. We've seen him in our game. He's physically gifted as any player out there. He can throw the ball as far as any person out there, but he does make some really questionable throws. Did it again last week in the Bears game, and I think he does it this week when TJ Watt and that defense are chasing him all over the field. One thing I know about the Steelers, they're not going to sit back and just make Anthony Richardson sit in the pocket. They're not just going to speed the power. They're going to try and get home. They're going to try and take the man down. I got the Steelers -1.5 at the Colts because I think the Colts are still a little bit away from being up to snuff. Then I finished with the Washington Commanders +3 at Arizona. Both teams have been impressive to me this year. Both teams I really like this year, but this is a hard week for picks, I think, Billy, and I want to catch some points on a team that I have good vibes about. I got good vibes about Jaden Daniels. I got good vibes about Scary Terry. I got good vibes about that Washington defense going into Arizona against Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. I got Washington +3. Those are my picks.
I love it. In that Washington game, I've wanted to go on all week long, but I ended up holding off. And I'm going to hold off here because John already alluded to my lock of the week, and we're going to start it out here right away. Here we go. Pittsburgh Steelers rolling to 4-0. -1.5 in what will be a very, very split Lucas Oil Stadium. Terrible Towels are just going to be taking over Lucas Oil Stadium. That place is going to be as close to a Steelers home game as possible. And Justin Fields is one of the biggest reasons why I'm taking it. Not only the Steelers defense, which is, I think, top 6 in like every single category that you could have. They're top 5 in pressure rate. They're number 1 against the run on defense, number 5 right now against the pass. And I don't think the Colts can do any of it all that well. So give me the Steelers, and I'm locking that one in right away. Who had Justin Fields at 4-0? Nobody. Congratulations.
Nobody.
Bruzowitz, maybe. That's it.
Maybe.
That's the only guy I know.
Check this out. Justin Fields might get a contract by the end of the year for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bears fans
just might by the end of the year could get a contract extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers and can be playing playoff football before Caleb Williams is. Just think about that
Bears
one and chew on it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a system play last week, Armin.
Yes.
Picked all dogs.
All dogs. A lot of points.
How about this?
You want the points?
All favorites.
Oh.
Give me the Green Bay Packers laying the 2.5.
All right, we like that.
I will say I'd lay 6.5. Now, I have been one of the more staunch defenders of Sam Darnold so far coming up this year.
Surprised about that.
I listened to one of his former teammates last night on Thursday Night Football wrap-up when Ryan Fitzpatrick let it in and said, I think this is the week he turns back into a pumpkin.
Wow.
Wow.
That was one of his former teammates.
Wow.
Now, I don't think Sam Darnold is going to stink all year. I think he's going to have a tough day on Sunday. If we're talking about the knee injury for the Green Bay Packers quarterback, Sam Darnold continued to play last week with his slight knee sprain going on. I think there's a little bit more to it than that this week. I think the cleats, John, that you'll be talking about in Armin, what is that 10 o'clock hit on the Packers preview?
Sorry, an early look.
During the early look, John's going to be saying, going to want to be screwing in them studs on the cleats.
Seven studs.
It might be a little bit slick. Dew still sitting on Lambeau Field. I think the Vikings are slip sliding all over the place, and I think the Packers are winning by 2 scores. So I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers, lay the 2.5. We touched on it. This is the easiest pick for me of the week, and it stinks on ice, but I got a gas mask on, so I'm feeling okay about it. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll lay the 4.5. They got to win the game, and they got to look good doing it. T. Higgins finally finds the end zone. Jamar Chase finds the end zone not once, but twice.
That's 3 tutties.
Cincinnati wins going away, and potentially you're seeing Dave Tepper throw a drink on somebody there in Cincinnati coming up this weekend. Maybe one of the stranger plays that I'll have all week long. I don't know why. Making business decisions out there in Las Vegas. I'm taking a business decision. Give me the Raiders minus 1.5. After last week,
wow,
Antonio Pierce calls them out. That line for the Cleveland Browns up front is dinged up, bruised, and battered. They have to block Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby. 1.5. It's always a difficult spot when you go out to Las Vegas. And who knows? Deshaun Watson likes to have some fun. You know, there's some fun that you could find yourself in Vegas. I don't know, maybe a little bit of a hangover game there as a 1:00 Las Vegas kick. Give me the Raiders against the Browns. And I'm also going to take the Kansas City Chiefs -7 against the Chargers. Chiefs have not looked as world beater as they maybe have. They don't cover a ton of spreads. That Charger team is beat up, both tackles on the injury report and Slater and Alt. Herbert dinged up for a second consecutive week. You name it. Derwin James out, suspended for the game. I think the Chiefs roll by 2 scores. Give me Kansas City, and I'll lay the touchdown. Not liking it, but I'll feel okay when I cash that ticket. And that's 5 picks against the number to eat with the guys at Carnivore. And you bet, as much as we like to think that those are locks, we got one more winner that's an absolute can't miss.
Oh yeah. We're talking Potawatomi Casino Hotel Sportsbook. That sportsbook that is the biggest and best sportsbook outside of Vegas. And you don't need to take my word for it. You just need to walk in and see for yourself, because the minute you walk in off the Skywalk 2nd or 3rd level, you will see 70 plus different kiosks that you can go and walk right up to and place your bet, and then leave if you want to, or stay and enjoy the sportsbook. Make your way down the escalators and see what the sportsbook has to offer, which is 2,000 square foot LED screen, seating for over 200, and leather couches, leather recliners, or sit there, play some video poker at the bar while you enjoy every single game on that incredible television, because it's the biggest screen you get outside of Vegas. Again, it is. Take my word for it, or make your way down and check it out. All right. Yesterday, 2 heartbreakers in a row. We had now had 2 nights back to back that we had a chance to go 8 winning weeks in a row.
That's the tough part, John.
We got 7 winning weeks in a row on deck. All we needed was a win Wednesday. Nope. We had a meaningless layup with a team down 8 with a score of 6.5. Missed that cover. Last night, all we needed was a Aubrey field goal. Best kicker in the league. Misses it, pushes it wide right. Missed that one. Missed that cover. So 2 covers in a row did not hit. So what do you think? Should we maybe pick an underdog? No, we're not doing that.
You need a rescue
pick.
pick.
Picking dogs. We're not picking dogs here. We're picking a favorite again, because we're going to get a favorite to cover, and cover in a big way. How about LSU in Death Valley -20.5? -20.5 versus a team that scored 87 points just 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay. Against who?
South Alabama scored 87 points against Northwestern State 2 weeks ago, and now they are 20.5 point underdogs. And I'm going to take LSU to cover that spread because it's at Death Valley, because it is at night, and I think they're going to be walking into a little bit of a feast. They're going to be walking into a little bit of a bloodbath here.
Well, and we need this to keep the streak of winning weeks going. So LSU, you can get it done. You can get it done. What's more, you got to get it done. Cover 20.5.
That's going to be awesome. South Alabama, maybe one of my favorite logos in college football.
Oh, it's cool.
It is a cool Jaguar.
Jaguar, right?
Yep. A good-looking logo. A good-looking logo as they're getting absolutely trounced at night at LSU, probably by about 4 or 5 touchdowns. I'm with you on that one, John. I'm a big fan of that one coming up this weekend. And this weekend is going to be a fantastic one in college football as well. All right, 414-799-1973. The NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. Get your predictions in, score predictions for Packers and Vikings. Our predictions on the other side. It's 9 to noon. Stay wide on the game. Packers Vikings border battle 128 as the Minnesota Vikings come down to Lambeau Field, well, across the Lambeau Field, and take on the Packers coming up Sunday. It'll be a fantastic, picturesque day for the gold package first game of the year. Many people that I was fighting with Aaron Nagler, She Said TV, when we do the Carry the G radio show.
You're fighting him?
We always have, this good back and forth as John, I'm going to defend the gold package forever. All right.
Yeah,
gold package fan, grew up going to gold package games. We need to be loud and proud. Gold package. All right. Let's be loud. Let's be there right away. And, maybe not the third quarter nap. Let's keep that thing energized all game long. From the start to the finish.
See, no one can decide what the problem is with everybody's package, like everybody's color and package. Pause, yeah, actually. But see, that's the thing.
I got no problem with my package, Armin, and I'm unconcerned about yours.
I felt that.
I don't need to know any more about your package.
I thought I had a good point too, But,
but you know what?
I didn't do it right. Yeah.
Listen, it is about how you present it. A lot of people presenting their Packers. Well, let's be honest. Very much optimism so far, guys, on the NicolaLaw.com talking text line on these score predictions, John. A lot of people as they're trying to be the contestant for You Bet on this upcoming Wide Open Wednesday.
How about Frank?
Ton of Packers suggestions here on winners.
16. We have a lot of optimism, but some blowouts too. So, man,
I'm gonna be honest. That's why I stayed away from this game as well. Honestly, I can see it going 7 different directions. I can see the Packers routing. I can see it being a close game. Packers win. I could see Minnesota routing. Right. I can see some rust. I could see the possibility of rust on Jordan Love coming back. Right. Hesitation with the knee injury. I mean, we haven't even talked about it. We're just assuming he comes back. What if he doesn't come back? What if it is Malik Willis facing this crazy defense? In Malik, we trust. I know. But this is a Brian Flores defense that has confused Brock Purdy, who was an MVP candidate, and C.J. Stroud, who was rookie of the in back-to-back weeks. I mean, this defense has done some great things. And even though I love the way Matt LaFleur has prepared these Packers for the last 2 weeks, I think this is a little bit of a different beast. I could see this going many different ways. And at the same time, I can see the Packers that are playing with a ton of confidence right now, just continuing to take that. Watching the film, there are some guys I'm just dying over. Like I would have loved to have played with Tucker Kraft.
Oh my
God. And Luke Musgrave. Yeah. These tight ends, people don't understand how big these guys are. These guys are enormous. I get on the elevator with them at hotels, at team hotels, and they are towering me.
And they're just squatted up most of the time, right? They're just rolling together from what I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
And they just roll in. And, I mean, did you see the deer that Luke Musgrave got last week?
On my
buddy's land. Yep. Texting them till like 2 a.m, these pictures and stuff. Look at what I got on
That's
land.
amazing.
They're amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
These guys are awesome. These guys are great. I would love, and they are balling. Tucker Kraft is balling. Emmanuel Wilson, balling.
Playing well.
Zach Tom, balling. I'm telling you, Edgerrin Cooper in limited time. Balling.
Yeah.
I mean, we got some young guys on this team that on the film are just blowing my mind. With that said, I respect what the Minnesota Vikings have done and what their film looks like as well. That's why I could see this going many different ways. And the most likely outcome is this is a nail biter down to the wire in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think team with the ball last is going to have a chance to win the game. I know that's not surprising, as last night, even in a game that felt like it was over, the Giants had a chance to go win the game with a touchdown and walk that thing off on Thursday night. John, one of the matchups that I'm most excited to see, and I'm not positive that we're going to be able to see it because he's been on and off, I should say, the injury report. Garrett Bradbury, center for the Minnesota Vikings, he has gotten eaten up by Kenny Clark in his career, right? I mean, absolutely eaten up by Kenny Clark in his career. And their offensive line is banged up, right? Dalton Reisner, he's still working back off injured reserve. Darisaw popped up on the injury report. It looked like more of an illness there. Like the Packers defensive front, we've talked a lot about their offensive line, but Devontae Wyatt, 3 sacks in 2 games. Kenny Clark, I love to be able to see the kind of pressure the Packers could be able to put on Darnold because he was very, very comfortable last week. And when you get up early, a couple of scores like the Vikings were able to do, it is difficult to be able to just know that you can pin your ears back and go and rush the passer.
I love that people say, like, okay, Dallas's defense has a script. All right, the Vikings defense has a script. And listen, every defense has that same exact script.
Yeah,
They'd love to make the game one-dimensional. where they only have to worry about rushing the quarterback 65 to 75% of the time. Every team wants that. Every team needs that. And quite frankly, there are some teams that are better at getting to that than others. And I do think that's very important, Billy. The team that strikes first in this one, team that can immense advantage, and immense advantage in this football game, even if they are closer in talent than what we would like to admit. I mean, if the Vikings find a way to get up in this game, it'll be a scary proposition for the Green Bay Packers. You flip that exactly around.
Yeah.
Minnesota hasn't really played from behind a whole lot this year.
Well,
You flip that script on them, you could get the exact same. That's what I'm saying. I could see a runaway by either team, but again, the most likely outcome is probably just two teams punching and punching back. I thought it was amazing this week how much Brian Flores had to say about Matt LaFleur and how much Matt LaFleur had to say about Brian Flores.
Mm-hmm.
They're already playing that game.
Yeah,
They are ready. They are ready, are moving their pieces around on the board, trying to get after each other a little bit, set this thing up. I mean, there's a couple answers I would have to the Brian Flores 08.
Ooh.
When he puts them all up like that, do your quick pass. I mean, I have things that, and I have to believe Matt LaFleur has them too.
Oh yeah, he's been sitting in that office. You think he's a lights on while he's watching film guy, John, or is he got them things on dark and he's just scribbling down different places? Oh, this is exactly what I'm doing. A little evil genius laugh after he figures something out.
The only psychos that watch film with the lights off anymore are Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Everybody else has moved up.
Well, you got to have the projector working. Come on. That's old school, man.
Drawing with the little marker on the overhead projector.
Did you guys see the clip of it was Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia actually cutting the film?
Oh my
God.
It was awesome.
16 millimeter, cutting it, splicing it, putting it back together. And this is how they got the name cut up. That was fascinating. That was incredible.
And the way
that was awesome.
The way it was bossing Patricia around, I loved it, man. That was great.
It's one of the reasons why I still want to see Belichick on the sideline again. It's just to be able to know and hear how he's bossing people around, but he's awesome on TV. All right, our score predictions coming up on the other side as well. Tons of yours coming in as well right now at 414-799-1973. Like Curtin Grafton said, 27-20 Minnesota. Jordan has to shake that rust off, need to stay healthy and convert on third downs. I just don't see it this week, guys. Sorry, I'm a Packer fan, but better defense gets my vote. He's one of few that are taking the Minnesota Vikings. Are you? 414-799-1973. Our picks and our takeaways of the day on the other side, 9 to noon on the game. Okay.
That was
Okay, Justin
terrible.
Jefferson.
Bad audio, but that was Justin Jefferson talking about Jair, just for people that didn't catch that yesterday.
Justin Jefferson said, John Kuhn, I ain't worried about his head games. I ain't worried about that. I'm going to be the one grittying in his end zone, was the prediction from one Justin Jefferson. In maybe.
I like that. Keep that.
You got to have that attitude.
That energy. Keep that energy when Sunday comes around, man. I'm excited for this one. This is good. And these little rivalries that we have tend to spice up a little bit when both teams are good, right? When both teams are good, this thing spices up and amps up a notch. So I'm really expecting big things out of this game on Sunday. It's crazy that it's a noon boom. The NFL didn't predict this, right? Kevin Harlan's probably jacked up that he's got this.
So happy. Yes,
I'm excited about it, even though I probably won't get to see him or listen to his broadcast until after I watch for the second time. But yes, absolutely exciting. Kevin Harlan is on CBS. Justin Jefferson spending a lot of time yesterday talking about how he doesn't care about Jair and the Packers and
I don't care.
Lambeau's bad field. And
I don't care.
Sounds like he doesn't care because he spends so much time talking about it. Yes, I know he's asked the question at a press conference, but another quote, he tries to get in my head. You know, I'm not tripping off of it. He reminds me of my big brother. They always try and knick-knack every little thing, but it doesn't really work. Yeah, well, it worked one time.
It totally doesn't work.
Yeah.
It totally didn't work, John, when he was spiking his helmet somewhat in the direction of the official a couple of years ago at Lambeau Field. His prediction to score a touchdown and be grittying at Lambeau. Your prediction for Packers and Lions as we sit here. Some odd, just over 48 hours away from kickoff at Lambeau Field.
My prediction for this game is, again, it's going to come down to the wire. I'm going to take the home team in a wire game. Let's go. Let's call it 20-18. Right?
Ooh, I like that.
18. I like that irregular score.
I'm going to pick some weird score because I think something weird happens in this game. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's, the Vikings missed their first extra point and chased 2 more 2-point conversions and end up with 18. I don't know if the Vikings kicked 3 or 6 field goals because, they've been so good in the red zone to this point. If all of a sudden the Packers defense gets good and they kick 6 field goals, I don't know what's going to happen. I none of us do, but I got the feeling this game's going to come down to the wire. Both these teams' films have looked unbelievable the last 2 weeks specifically. So I'm expecting one heck of a football game.
I think it's going to be an awesome one. I can't wait for it. Armin, your prediction? Packers and Vikings.
I'm going to go 24-20 Packers. I think it's going to be kind of a grinder, low possessions. Packers are going to try and run some clock on this and constrict the game a little bit, which I kind of like. Why not? Let's make this our day at Lambeau. 24-20 Packers.
26-10 Packers. I think the Packers move the ball well. I think they win by multiple scores. I do think, though, John, and this is going to be really the game changer, and it's been the bugaboo for the Packers so far early in the season. They got to finish in the red zone. I mean, like we've talked about it enough where they've put up enough points, especially 30 last week. But remember, 7 of that's on the defensive side with a pick 6 from Jair. They got to be better than 1 of 3 in the red zone. I think they get down there a couple of times. I think they get into the end zone a couple of times, but still leave a couple of points there on the board. Fascinated to see. Matt LaFleur seemed to have figured out Brian Flores' defense last time these two teams played together in Minnesota. Is that the same recipe or is it much different? And is it more like that first time that they played at Lambeau where it was all Vikings for pretty much the entirety of the first half?
When you say he figured out that defense, he did, but it was timing with Jordan Love throwing balls into spaces and letting receivers run under them. If Jordan Love, and this is why I think it's a close game. If Jordan Love was healthy and we're sitting here at 2-1, yeah, I'm taking the Packers and I'm probably taking them by about a touchdown. But as we stand right now with Jordan Love, I don't know if there's going to be rest. I cannot imagine he's going to be at the tip top of his game. I expect him to be good. I expect us to have more of an open playbook versus Malik Willis. But man, he was on one when we played at Minnesota at the end of the season last year, throwing Bo Melton open throughout the course of the game. Yeah, I think that's going to be tough to come by, but we do have a team that can run the football now, and I'm excited about that.
And maybe Keyshawn Nixon actually gets a kick return. Maybe we actually get to see a Keyshawn Nixon kick return this week. Because remember, 2 years ago in the game at Lambeau Field, he housed that one against former Packer now Greg Joseph, and that was what blew the doors wide open in that game at Lambeau a couple of years ago. Check this out on the way out. Quick Trip takeaway of the day. Just realize how even this thing has been. Packers and Vikings against the spread, 4-4 each since 2020. 8-8 against the spread since 2016. And since 2011, the series against the number is 11-11. Wow. These two teams are very, very close. Just shows that the Bears still suck. I mean, like you can't even get one of those games to be close. These games are nip and tuck seemingly every single year. We cannot wait for it and cannot wait to be able to see it and talk about it and overreact to it on Monday on 9 to noon. John Kuhn's got at 10 o'clock, Armin, during the Packers preview show.
An early look
at Lambeau Field. And then he's got the game call with Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron during right here on Packers Radio Network. Armin Sarian is laboring all throughout the day. Myself and Drew Olson will talk to you after the game as well on Packers OT live from Lambeau Field. And then on Monday, we will overreact to all of it with all of you on the NicoletLaw.com talking text line. Our Quick Trip takeaways of the day brought to you by Quick Trip. Need something for dinner tonight? Don't cook. Stop by your local Quick Trip. Pick up a freshly prepared, absolutely delicious take-home meal. Armin, they might even find. And Glazers. And maybe Sunday Glazers or Sunday Blueberry Dunkers.
Absolutely.
For a victory celebration and the final Brewers home series of 2024 before the postseason kicks off. Speaking of those Brewers, Tim Allen will have a lot of Brewers conversation. He is in for Mike Heller on the other side and a ton of football because it is a football Friday. For John Kuhn, Billy Schmidt, and Armin Sarian, we'll be back on Monday. We'll try to be better. It's 9 to noon on the game.